Hi everyone, this is Norman Koschek, a little bit bleary-eyed at the moment, just having had some time resting, and of course it's now about a couple of hours out from the match on day 3. This is the preview to day 3 of the test match between India and of course England. We know that this is at Lord's. We've had 2 great days of cricket. There's been a touch of rain, but generally play's gone on for the full entitlement of time. England are currently 3 for 119 after some 45 overs, having with India scoring 364. Probably could have went well over 400, but they've scored 364, which is the score they've got. And in fact, so England supposedly trail by 245 with a run rate of 2.64. The run rate's been below 3 for most of the tests from all teams involved. So let's have a look. We've got a few. Manu John's been there. England better play carefully because they have so much to lose and so long to go. Yes, it's true. Run run a good PM ahead. The moving day of test match cricket, exactly. But Bairstow, Butler, Moen, Sam to much foul power. Once they get set, they can smash it as well. But yeah, they may also fall quickly. You can't say that with any great confidence. So that is the score at the moment between England and David Graveney has joined me. How are you, David?
Fine, thanks, Norman.
How are you? What have you? So you had your granddaughter's 4th birthday. Yes, that would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was good.
So, plenty of cake.
Sorry? Well,
plenty of cake.
It tends to be numerous days in the Graveney household, birthdays. So that's all happening on Sunday. So we shall see what happens. So, who was? So it all changed within 3 balls, isn't it? Slap it straight to extra cover, then Rahane gets out, and then behind the 8 ball again. So.
Quite incredible. And alternative, also the way that Siraj took the 2 wickets that he took as well happened very quickly. That Hamid came out to face his first ball after 5 years of being in the so-called wilderness and gets bowled.
Would it be helpful if he played down? That's the original playing down to Bakerloo, wouldn't it? Really, so, he managed to play inside a ball that came back at him. So. But I think he might have been beaten for speed. I think sometimes facing from the pavilion end, particularly when the light's not fantastic, which it was yesterday, and it's very nice for them to build a wonderful historic building in red brick. But sometimes that can be quite there was a time when there was no side screen. Well, that was lovely.
But hang on, he wasn't facing the pavilion. He had the pavilion behind him.
No, I think the Shiraz was bowling from the pavilion end. I think.
I'm not sure. I thought I haven't got a recollection.
If you look at the footage,
vaguely remember the ball.
But if he was bowling from that end, it can. That's what I thought, which was really odd, was that the 2 sides had to have the bowl off, and I don't know whether I think I've mentioned it before in the World Cup final, that the end they used was the far end. Where, if you remember that, the weather was really sunny, and it was at the end of the day. So you have this image of the building and then sunlight behind it. Whereas if you're facing from the other end, it's just bright. So but I'm sure that somebody would have dictated to him about the ends. But anyway, very, very sad for him. He's waited a long time for his opportunity. And again, this is a question we were talking about yesterday. Yeah. You just have to give people time to adjust. So the next,
I think you can ignore that. You can ignore that.
Walking down the stairs and whatever, and somebody's. If it's possible to do, and sometimes it isn't possible to do, is to say as he's walking into the pavilion or leading up to that, you're in the next game, whatever happens. So if just to remove that burden on him. So.
I mean, but certainly, despite the form that he'd been showing and the rights that he had to be selected, the energy, the nervous energy that comes across you after waiting 5 years from your last time would be enormous.
It would be, because the journey that he's had, Norman, is an extraordinary journey. That he really looked the business playing in India. That sort of, which was fantastic. He's another under-19 player that sort of has passed through me to a degree. And then his loss of form after that was absolutely staggering. Like sort of dealing in single digits, not just for a month, but virtually for a whole season, which led to him changing counties, which has worked for him. Probably a better wicket because it's got a bit more pace in it. So he's had a real journey. Obviously,
how old is he now?
He's probably, I think, probably 23, 24. He played when he was really young. He was, and he had that chance because he was just a run machine. So hopefully.
So hang on. So he's 22 now. He's been out of the side for.
I don't think it's
what
5
they
years.
say is 5 years. So he must have been very young when he first started.
Yeah, no, I don't think he was that young. So
actually, no, he's 20. He's 24 years and 209 days. They're saying here. So he was around the 1980s.
19. Yeah, it was a bit around 1920.
Incredible. And
He'll be back.
I mean,
perhaps he needs a haircut, Norman, or is that being old-fashioned?
Well, I think he does need a haircut. I would argue that. I need a shave. So he's normally an opening batsman, correct? He would normally be slated as an opening batsman.
First three. Yeah,
first three, okay.
That is not an unusual position for him to bat.
Right. So, and it's saying here that Lancashire had not produced an English opening batsman since Atherton played his last test in 2001. So it's been a bit of time between drinks. But so, despite the fact that he got out first ball, what's your overall impression of him?
I think he has earned the right to have another go. I think in defence of England's management, whoever that's been, they've always tried to. The moment he had any sort of semblance of form return, then they wanted to include him, which is really, really good. Sort of. I once had a bit of a run-in with his family. We were playing in a World Cup in Dubai. This is a World Cup that South Africa won when Rabada opened the bowling. So there was some serious bowlers.
Right.
I can't think he was playing for India, but they're always good anyway. So a number actually the Pakistanis who played in that World Cup are now playing in their seats, which is the norm actually for that under-19s. If you were wanting to sort of have a snapshot of the talent in the world over a week, that is the tournament to go and see. Because a lot of those players, particularly from the subcontinent, go on to play full Test matches. So he played. He could have played in that. We were also having an under-17 tournament, and he was not happy because I basically, or the family were not happy actually, because when the decision was made, I was met a deputation that included him, his father, his brother, his sister, and his mother. All came to Loughborough to defend his case that he should have been in the under-19s, which is great. I don't have a problem about that. I'll explain any selection to anybody. They don't have to agree, and often don't. So the argument for that was, why do you want to go to Dubai? All you'll do is the best carry drinks. Whereas if you go to Sri Lanka, you will be the main player in the under-17s, which probably didn't probably accept, but actually he got to bat and score some runs in a different environment. So hopefully it would have been more useful than carrying drinks around, let's put it like that. So I've seen him from time to time. He's a bright lad. He's done his education is important to him and family. So I'm just pleased for him that they've been doing an article on people who'd had first ballers, and Alan Wells who played for one against West Indies at the Oval, which I did say is not in my era either, Norman, and that was it. He just had one ball in his Test match career.
Right. So we haven't seen the last of Crawley either. Crawley will come back.
No, they'll be back. It's just, I think that the concept, how do you, what you're trying to do commercially as a country in terms of playing white ball cricket and the demands of the, not demand, the desire of people to play in the APL. Where's your window where you can play red ball cricket, sort of domestically? Because the end result is, as is in the Indian team to a degree, and even applied to Kohli, they just look a bit rusty in terms of what they have to do against the red ball. I either leave it, for instance, whereas Rahul has that's the rhythm with which he bats at. I think in terms of leaving, driving through the covers. That's why it was such a, dare I say it, having given him all the praise on day one, that was a really poor shot to get out to, and he knew that I walked off. He inadvertently pushed open the ball for the England attack, because it wasn't, of all the balls that went past the edge of the bat the day before, that was a pretty average ball. So that was it. Just put India on the back foot. If they'd survived for half an hour, England would have got more desperate to take wickets. They would have probably bowled balls that you could score off, but to have taken 2 wickets in the space of 6 balls was just a perfect what they wanted. So,
well, it was the ball that got Rahul certainly stopped in the wicket. It didn't come through at the same pace, and that hampered his shot, being the second ball that he faced.
Yeah.
And in the case of Rahane, there was no excuses. He played at a ball he shouldn't have. It was never a ball to play. And both Rahane and Kohli are both suffering from that delivery, which Rahul and Sharma handled so beautifully. Almost identical deliveries.
But they had some luck, unless their geometry, Norman, was so good that they could play inside the line without risking nicking it. So. But that's also the mark of a really good left-hander, that they play the line of their off stump and not follow the ball.
Exactly.
So this is the right-handed version of doing that. So,
well, it is true. I mean, there's no advantage in following the ball, is there, with the bat?
It's a very natural thing to do when you're not in exactly one. You don't know where your off stump is, to a degree. And also, you're desperate to get the bat on the ball, just to feel that sensation. So you go searching for it rather than just wait until it comes to you.
Although, I mean, again, a lot of the batting techniques or the practices that are given here in Australia, which is worldwide, I'm sure, is the movement of the body around, so the right hip moves around and the right leg is actually covering the stumps and is played almost in front of you. There's a technique that seems to be developing where a lot of the young kids practice that shot. I'm not sure if I'm explaining it properly, but you side on, but as the ball comes, you almost front up, see the ball is...
That is actually, I'm speaking to Graham Gooch about some of the younger guys about, because I'm not a great fan of the bat being held up high up in a very stationary position. I'm used to sort of a rhythm to the ball of the bat hitting the ground, and as the bowler gathers to bowl, you begin your whatever you're doing at your, because if you're standing in a pretty rigid position, and this is probably to younger people, I don't see their hands moving beyond their back hip, so there's no natural swing of the bat. It's like if that was the way to play racket sports, tennis players would have their racket above their heads all the time, as would golfers. So there's no rhythm. There's no rhythm to the swing.
I totally agree.
That was the word that Graham Gooch used about trigger movements. It's not a question of whether you have one or don't have one. It is the rhythm with which you use it to get yourself in the right position. And you could be fractionally out to either make you hurried or static, one or the other. So,
but I guess it's also a matter of having said all that, which you're totally right about. But then it's a matter of how that batsman feels most comfortable in their quirks of their technique. I mean, Tony Gregg had this awful, huge, high bat hanging up there.
Well,
and he was already 6'8" or whatever it was.
Yeah, Gucci did the same thing. He had that sort of scenario. He spent half his time tucking his chin into his left shoulder to make sure the balance of his eyes. That's the problem with tall people. Is it's very easy for their head to turn to one side, so they're not level.
That's right.
So there's lots of shots that are played, and I know this is not a criticism of Sibley, but a lot of people get caught on the leg side, and wonder why. Is because their head is falling in one way,
Exactly.
whereas the ball they're trying to hit the ball the other way, so they're not in a balanced position. So that's why Tendulkar was so good off his pads. One, because he was probably the right height, but he was in such a balanced position to hit the ball.
Well, I mean, Bradman was the best exponent of balance, in my opinion. If you ever see Bradman play,
but there's one thing in common, Norman. They're all small.
I know and look, David Byrne was the same. And
Lara's Joe Root. They're small. Joe Root isn't actually not as small as people think he is, but it's just that balanced position that they get themselves into. So, I think this would be really good because I hope that I'm sure that Joe will be saying to Bairstow and to Butler, just play your natural game, and to Moeen Ali. So and to Curran, you've got 4 blokes there who don't like facing dot balls. So this scoreboard could have smoke coming out of it. It's not careful.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm making my own assumptions here, but I don't think England will get more than 250 in this innings. I have this feeling, what I'm gathering, they won't.
Same thing as like yesterday morning. It all changes within half an hour.
No, it does. It does. I mean, it's going to come down to Root for them to be certain of getting a score of 360 odd. They're going to need Joe Root to get a big score, and he's already 40 odd, so he's already halfway there. You could argue, but take that.
He is also another classic. He comes in, you watch him bat, and then you look at the scoreboard and you say, "How's he got 40? Where did he get those from?" Because he just plays. He's a fantastic player.
Well, the very fact that he's already passed Gooch's total, and he's well on his way to going towards where Cook went. Now, obviously, we must put that into perspective because Cook could have played another 3 or 4 years.
Well, he's playing now, which I think is a testimony to him. So often in England, England are different from anywhere else because it is a full-time domestic program. So you actually earn a living by playing domestic cricket. And all the likes of a Sane or whatever, retired in great dramatic style and ran off to the commentary box. Cook, to his credit, wanted to repay Essex for their investment as a young person, and is continuing to play and continuing to score runs, which I think is a fantastic thing to do.
What is he? I mean, he's obviously earning money from all sorts of things, but has he returned to a type of work post cricket or?
No, he owns a farm.
That's right.
Yeah, so he likes that I'm sure is I'm not sure whether it's rugby players or cricket players. Are any Australians own farms?
I don't know of any. I don't think because most of the country players, if you call them that, actually end up settling in the city. Like Pat Cummins was from the outer part of Sydney. Glenn McGrath was certainly from country, but he's not gone back there. Taylors and Slaters were from rural areas that they haven't returned there. Doug Wallers has a lot to do with his Dungog, his town, which is semi-rural, you could argue, but he lives in suburbia now. So,
which bar did he frequent, Norman?
Sorry,
which bar did he frequent in where he?
Doug Wallers. Oh my God, his house. I don't know why he has this, but he's got about 700 cans of beer, and they're not all empty either, by the way. But he has a ridiculous amount of alcohol lying all over the place in his place. Evidence that he drinks everywhere and anywhere. He's the quintessential hard drinker. He after an event earlier this year with he and Jeff Thompson and I were at a University of Victoria, which has a base in Sydney. We had an event where they were sending off one of the deans, and they want to have some stars there, and I brought those two along. And after they went straight to a pub, and Doug was there and was not leaving until he polished off as many cans as he could. Jeff was there too, and they were ready, and they were happy to sit on their own.
He looks very well on it, Doug Walters, I must admit.
He's 74.
Yeah, no, it's
he stopped smoking.
He was such a popular player, wasn't he, in Australia?
Oh, he's absolutely loved. There's been the Doug Walters bar, the Doug Walters stand,
Is
the
that
Doug
just
Walters
because
room.
was he loved? Obviously, he was a fantastic player. The way he played was obviously, he didn't block too many either. But was that also because of the way he lived his life? That he was a man.
I think so. Yeah. He was an amazing person. The way he lived his life, he was a tremendous person. We're joined by Sid again, David. How are you?
Hi, David. Hi, Norman.
We were just talking about Doug Walters and the way he is at 74 years of age and still drinks heavily. And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just he's a lover of his drink. And
no. You want to describe him as a social person, Norman. That's what
exactly. And he has He has an event that he goes back to Dungog, and he brings anywhere upwards of 100 people with him. His wife's lovely. His family's lovely. He's got a quintessential house, the big bar, the TV out the back, the pool. He sits there and watches his cricket and loves it, and we'll have a chat. And you really can't talk to Doug unless you've got a beer in front of you. He'll meet with you, and there's a stubby, a beer. Good. It's in front of you before you can say, "I don't want one."
Like his lifestyle.
Because
he used to work. He worked for a tobacco company, didn't he, when he played?
Correct.
Has he given that habit up now or not?
Oh, I don't know exactly when it was. I think it was, I'm going to guess and say 15 years or something like that.
Yeah.
He had some issue with his health. It wasn't major. And he just basically...
That's enough.
Wanted to stop immediately. He went off and did one of those hocus pocus things. What do you call it? Like
acupuncture.
Acupuncture. Yeah, he went and did one of those acupuncture things. And off he went and bang, stopped immediately. I've interviewed him a few times. There's an interview, I don't know whether you had a chance to, maybe you haven't, David, but I've done a full hour-long interview with him on two platforms, on TV Arcana, which I've got there, which he goes into a lot of detail. We talked loosely, and then I've done him again at his home. I'm actually in his home, sitting there having a beer, we're having a chat. So I've had some great talks with him, which I've recorded, and I've really enjoyed that.
So, Sid, who had the best prediction from yesterday?
No one had the best prediction. I think, David, you came close.
Yeah.
If Anderson I just was blown away by the brilliance of Anderson. He's running in, he bowls 30 overs, gets that swing in that right channel, another 5-wicket haul. Oh, yeah,
for his
he is the greatest. Period. He is the greatest for him.
Yeah. And
7 on a board.
It's getting better and better as time progresses, really.
7 times on the honours board in Lords.
That's amazing.
You take away Anderson's 5 wickets, what did the rest of the England bowling do? They really struggled to control.
I think
Ollie Robinson did it.
I think this is without wishing to be pessimistic, this is a look into the future, I think, for England. And every side has to go through cycles. I'm sure Indeed. Australia did when Lydia Thompson finished. West Indies, the speed attack of the 80s. You have to rebuild. So
Indeed.
But they are particularly Anderson is a really hard act to follow. Broad away from home is a little bit more dangerous. But both outstanding. Well, just the figures show, don't they? They're sitting on the top and in front of everybody else. So I just thought that some of the Indians were. I thought Sharma looked a bit rusty.
He certainly did.
And Bumrah is my favourite player, Sid, because just every day is different, really, for him. So, and I think he needs a bit of pace in the wicket, because I think his change up and change down of speed is so clever that I think that's one of his major weapons. So if the wicket is just slow, that makes that really difficult for him. So,
and they said that this Lord's wicket is very soft underneath. That's what they have said in the initial pitch report. So I
Yeah.
think that negates Bumrah slightly. If he has a hard break, that's why he does so well in Australia and South Africa. Those hard wickets
because the change of pace from his action, which is difficult to spot, is much more threatening. But the amount of rain, Sid, that they've had in the southeast over the last 2 months is just extraordinary. And it's all normally the weather comes from the west in the UK across the Atlantic, but this has all come from the continent, and the continent have had extraordinary hot temperatures, which has sparked off unbelievable thunderstorms. I don't know if you saw any pictures of Germany. This was about 6 weeks ago. That was just flooded completely.
Yeah, it was flooded.
Underground.
Germany.
They're still trying to find people who are in the underground car parks in the middle of the summer. The speed with which the water fell and went into places like that. So that is monsoon type weather. So it's not surprising that the wickets have it obviously won't be on the surface, Sid, but the water table will be quite high. Which is, I would have to say, quite unusual this time of year. So.
But Bumrah's so-called go-to delivery, his Yorker, he doesn't seem to get too many of those out of the way of late. Would you agree?
I'm not sure. I'm thinking on English wickets with the English ball. I just see him as a bloke who hits the seam probably a lot more often than the other Indian bowlers. So, and I don't know how many, unless they've been playing IPL, they wouldn't have faced Bumrah that much actually over the last few years. So it's again, you can see as much footage as you like. The ECB spent a serious amount of money. I won't embarrass them by telling you what it is, but basically they had a machine that this is borrowed from baseball, where you can get a pitcher, so you get used to how he coils up to throw, and the ball comes out of a hole in the screen, and you can wind up the speed. So they had this.
It's called the Merliner, right, David? The Merliner.
No, the Merlin is a spin machine. So that can bowl leg spin, off spin, or whatever. Okay, it's really, really good because the bowlers, the coaches are having elbow operations and whatever, but it's very hard for the bowler, for a batsman, unless you tell him exactly what's facing, because there's only a machine you're looking at. You're not looking at a bowler, and if you're bowling leg spin, seeing the back of his hand that it's going to be a googly, it just comes out of the machine. So that's good to a degree, but limited. But this bowling machine, so you had footage of Brett Lee running up and letting the ball go, and this at the point of delivery, a ball shot out of this hole in the screen at the same sort of speed. But I don't think it had the same impact as it had in baseball. So
indeed.
Sitting at Loughborough with a fair amount of dust on it, I think. So, well, the great addition to coaching is what I would say is the dog throwing thing, which is the plastic stick.
Yeah, the plastic one. Yep, plastic stick.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is again a Graham Gooch introduction, I think. Obviously, he didn't make them, but I think he used a prototype, which is I think used worldwide now. Because a lot of batsmen said, I'm not. This is only quotes coming from somebody like Graham Smith, Hashim Amla, who played for Surrey, is that they didn't want a bowling machine. In fact, they prefer not to play against a bowling machine and not have a net at all, because they felt it disrupted their rhythm of. And I was speaking to Norman about sort of backlifts and the rhythm of batting, and they felt that actually the dog throw was, other than actually the bowlers themselves, was the best way to go.
Well, I agree. I mean, to me, to be indoors in an environment where you have netting around you and artificial light is so not real. The best way is centre wicket practice or a true outdoor experience where you're free around you, where you can freely play shots, even in practice. Yeah. I think the nets, although it's a necessary evil, especially against bowling machines, is so unnatural. I mean, they've got currently in Brisbane at the so-called cricket academy there at Allan Border Field. They have these indoor centre where they have there's pitches which are dedicated to spin fast, different conditions, that they're actually textured to be different, which I commend, but still it's not the reality of it. If that makes any sense. And you know, you might do brilliantly on this artificial.
It would be difficult to reproduce some of the pitches that England played on in India indoors.
Exactly. But there's these.
Well, the main problem about the Merlin that Sid is talking about is if you do it indoors, the bounce is much higher than you would have outdoors. So in the end, you get to start playing off the back foot, which if you were playing outdoors on a lowish wicket, you wouldn't be playing back too often. You would be trying to play forward as much as you could.
David, apart from that bounce, does it even take into account the drift factor if you play indoors, or no, that can't be reproduced?
Yeah, a little bit, but fortunately, Sid, there is no replacement for a human. So
Absolutely.
We can all keep playing. So,
indeed.
But the bowlers, you know, it's hard for the bowlers. You need to, and that is, I would have to say, not a criticism. It is I think the beauty of India, and the same would be in Sri Lanka as well to a degree. Well, the last time I went to Sri Lanka, I went to the ground where Murali grew up playing, where they actually play Test cricket, and they had a net session, and I've never seen so many left-arm spinners trying to imitate Harath of how to bowl. Sort of small blokes bowling round arm, left arm spin, making the ball bounce about that high. But you know, he was a really good bowler. But the point I was going to make, if you had a net at virtually any ground in India, you could basically face an array of bowlers, an array of ages as well, from somebody who might be 14 to somebody who might be my age, bowling spin from morning to dusk. So if you really wanted to find a technique of how to play, that's the place to go.
Indeed.
And they're very good actually at telling you how to play as well, because their experience is so great of having to bowl at, you know, some really top players of playing spin.
But it's frustrating as well what you've said about Sri Lanka. They have so much raw talent from across the board. We've found that in some of the great players that they've actually brought through. Now it's in such a shambolic mess that money, it's a real mess.
Yeah, it's well, my best friend at school, Norman and Sid, was actually the president of the Sri Lankan cricket when they won the World Cup.
Wow.
And so he takes great pride in that, and he invites the team to functions at his house. I think they had their 25th anniversary not too long ago, actually.
Yep.
And
Sumatipala, is it Tilanga Sumatipala?
No,
he's around now.
Yeah. He's the one who owns a bookmakers, I think. So.
Yeah, he's a bit of a worry.
And Anna was sacked within 6 months because the government changed, and the appointments of the coach and the selectors is a government appointment.
It's been a mess for a lot. It's continuously political in its motivation. It's continuously somewhat fraudulent. It's continuously somewhat corrupt. So it's continuously a battle of people, egos rather than reality. They don't care a toss about anything other than their own nests. There are people, there's one or two people that are really, really good, but they're outnumbered by a lot of very bad people.
By masses. Then it becomes a battle between the faction supporting Aravinda de Silva against the faction supporting Arjuna Ranatunga.
Indeed.
And if they're in the same room, they get on fine with each other, but they leave the room and then go back to their different factions. So I'm led to believe. But probably Norman knows a bit more than I do.
The reality,
you're right. They're right in terms of the talent that they have and how they try to organise it. Simon's the best person to speak to. We get Simon on the line.
Well, Simon
worked for Sri Lankan cricket.
Well, he knows full well, but I don't know whether he's necessarily going to talk about it too publicly about everything he knows, because he's still very closely connected to them, and I think he would.
No, he is. Yeah. Yes, I wouldn't expect him to do that, but he would freely admit it's probably a little bit more politically influenced than other countries. But there have been times when Indian cricket had also been quite politically influenced by people. There's the odd franchise that has had to take a back seat from time to time. So.
Well, I keep on retailing the result. We're going through the memory that I have of Trevor Bayliss with Kumar Sangakkara and Stuart Law. We were all in the same. I think it was a Cinema Grand, and they just had a press conference, and they had been given a side that they had already sorted who they were going to pick, and they were given a document, which they were fuming, absolutely fuming, because the team's squad selection was completely changed on the basis of the president, Rajapaksa, and his influences around people like Sanath Jayasuriya and his involvement, and the insistence, because he was being put in a ministerial type role, the insistence of his involvement. Trevor Bayliss, who was the most incredible coach, was livid, because they knew that they said they're wasting their time, because they were basically not allowed to pick freely who they wanted to pick. How could that be successful formula? It can't.
No.
Look, I'm without talking out of school, I'm pretty sure that happens in most countries too. Not to that extreme, but I do think there is an element of interference.
It's an interesting concept, Norman. Boris Johnson picking the England cricket team.
Well, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's totally ridiculous.
I mean, it's there throughout the subcontinent.
It's
not just the Sri Lankan phenomenon.
But I mean, Australia, don't be misunderstood that the Cricket Australia, the board of Cricket Australia have an influence on the selection of the teams as well. There's an element that goes on.
Yeah.
And that shouldn't happen either, really.
If I reflect back on my involvement, and this is not telling stories out of school because it's about to come out in a book, is that, I think, Sid, the background for my involvement, I think you have to understand that I wasn't good enough to play as a player, so therefore to be involved as a selector. And you're also, you know the people who are playing because you played against them or with them.
Yeah,
it was just a fantastic honour, really, to do it. So, and one of the chairmen that I worked with, not for, but worked with, who's still is a really good friend. He wanted me to basically ring every single player when they're selected, whether they've been in the team before, but obviously if they've been left out. So everybody had to be phoned. So that there were some good phone calls and there were some very short phone calls, particularly if they've been left out of the team. But he also worked in big business, and the company that he represented were also sponsors for Ferrari and also Manchester United. So some really big companies. So
that's
he
huge.
did actually, and it wasn't a rebuke. It was just a reminder that say that and I realise everybody's doing their job, but these are the types of organisations that our company is involved with, and we're used to winning. So, and he just left it like that. So I think I got the message.
Indeed.
But I mean, the political nature in Australia of states, New South Wales being the predominant state where selections are made, then you would argue on occasions an element of tokenism where someone from WA or Tasmania or Queensland get put aside, and they battle to make sure there's a representation of states in the team as well. That happens. I mean, I can't talk about England. I can't talk about counties in England. But I think it's the reverse. I was told the first time I went to Australia, and I've expressed to Norman my liking of Queensland because my uncle played there, and the people that were involved with Queensland's cricket, and I think this is right. They see it as their job to produce players for the Australian cricket team. So if it means that they don't win the Sheffield Shield, then in some ways they think that they've done their job. And that certainly is not the case in England. No, the counties want to, they want to be successful, and I think they go along with
to sort of, they take reflective pride when somebody does play for England. But I can remember having to try, before central contracts came in, trying to negotiate with counties to rest bowlers. And I basically got a very short response. Don't tell us how to run our cricket clubs. So, which is entirely different attitude to Queensland. Because I think if I'd gone back to Queensland, they would have said, fine, we'll rest him if it means that the national team will win. So that's fine.
And we're not even talking about the situation in the West Indies. Well, not only are we talking about cricket clubs throughout the West Indies, we're talking about countries.
Yeah.
32 countries.
Well, the whole thing's been demolished, hasn't it? You're talking of a real political undertones, different currencies, different religions. That takes some sorting out, that.
Indeed.
But it's always been predominantly Barbados or
Trinidad,
Antigua, or Jamaica. They're the major 4 battling grounds of the selections.
Guyana had its own. Guyana.
Yeah, Guyana have players, but the threat of talented young athletes wanting to play American sports is massive, particularly in Jamaica.
Yep.
But whether it's be
look at Jamaica,
baseball, or it be basketball, American football,
now athletics, thanks to Bolt.
Yeah, so the financial benefits are massive. So
indeed.
Anyway,
I mean, athletics.
So how do you think it's going to go today, Sid? What's the plan?
Again, Root holds the key. Bairstow, Butler have to contribute. You just cannot depend entirely on Root. Bairstow, Butler, and Moeen have to contribute. England have to take the lead. If they don't take the lead, they'll be in some trouble because the weather is fine for the rest of the 3 days.
Yeah, no, it will be. I think if England are batting tonight, still batting tonight,
yes,
and without too much damage to their batting lineup, they will be in a position to win the game. Because if they go into the following day with a lead, you've still got 2 days to go.
Indeed.
And I just sense that I think Joe will have reflected upon when they played New Zealand. They had the opportunity to declare, which they didn't take, or set what I would say is if you're going to set a proper declaration, Sid, you've got to be prepared to lose. You can't shut every single door by saying, well, we're only playing for a win or a draw, because there won't be enough time for that.
Indeed.
So I just think he might be a bit more adventurous. But the one thing's for sure, the batsman that you're mentioning, and I'm going to put Curran in that as well, they are going to score at a rate that's going to eat up that 200 lead pretty rapidly. That can all change, as it did yesterday, in the space of 6 balls. You lose a couple of wickets, and then it's catch-22. But if by lunchtime they've survived, and it will be survival, that does the barometer of win or whatever might have shifted a bit towards England. I think. So
Indeed.
I still think India hold the cards at the present stage. Norman thinks that England are going to be bowled out for 200.
No, I didn't say that. I said 250. I didn't say 200.
No, but then look, England's bowlers and Anderson in particular ensured that England got a toehold when they got India out for under 400. If it was under 400, if it was over 400, then we wouldn't have had the situation. Luckily, luckily,
I think it's a lot to play for. And I'm sure the Indian bowlers would have sat down last night and looked at sort of the pitch map that will be given to them, sort of where their deliveries were landing, and draw some conclusions from that. Because if you play on a slow wicket, your accuracy is highlighted a bit. The margin for error is not that great. Not that it all goes going for 4, but it stops you putting the batsman under pressure, so they could leave the ball with some comfort. So.
And David, luckily, there was a bonus for England that Rory Burns batted really well yesterday.
No, he
weathered the storm.
Yeah.
And he seems to do well at Lords. He had 100 last time against England.
Better last night than he probably has for a number of weeks, I would think. So.
But there was always a question mark certainly over Sibley. Rory Burns, not as much. Crawley now has been dropped for Hamid. There's still a question mark over the first three batters of the team, and that's always a concern. I mean, I know India's got concerns about Pujara, but I think India's stability still wins out very strongly. England has still continued to have a problem.
And as we spoke about yesterday, there are obviously players out there of high ability, but are they bristling in form against the red ball? Because all they've been doing is playing the white ball. So it's not easy for the selectors on either side, actually. So if I'm not suggesting India will make a change, regardless of the result, but who are the other batsmen in the touring party? I should know this, but I don't. So.
There is Hanuma Vihari, who's there. He can slot up in case either of Pujara or Rahane get the axe. That's one. Second, you have Abhimanyu Ishwaran. He's predominantly an opener, but maybe he might play in the middle order. Abhimanyu Ishwaran, that is number 2.
So is Agarwal ahead of him, though? Is Agarwal ahead of him?
Agarwal is definitely ahead of him. Yep. Mayank Agarwal, Abhimanyu Ishwaran, Hanuma Vihari, Prithvi Shaw. These are the 4 guys who can step up in the middle order, because you're not going to tamper with the opening combination. Rahul and Rohit are here to stay for all the 5 tests.
Yeah.
The only changes that will happen are in the bowling department for India, because I will not see Bumrah playing all 5 tests. That'll put him a threat for the IPL and the World T20 also, because his fitness is not up to the mark nowadays.
Right.
And 5 tests is grueling for any bowler. It is very, very grueling. And looking at the schedule, 5 days after England, you have the IPL. 2 days after the IPL, you have the World T20.
There'll be some managers sit on both sides. Yep. And I suppose that's one of the I think one of the great decisions that England made, which was done some years ago, was and against their wishes, was to take Anderson and Broad out of white ball cricket and protecting them from red ball cricket. And they both freely admit now that they wouldn't be playing if they tried to play both.
Indeed.
So that was actually quite an inspired decision, but also a strong one, because there must have been lots of times to temptation to sort of bring them back into white ball cricket, but they chose not to go that route. So, and to their credit, I know, being a former selector, what I said to somebody who joined to be a selector, the parameters of this job are very simple. When England win, the players get the credit, which is quite right. When we lose, it's our fault. So if you understand the job description, that's what it is.
Yes, that's the problem.
So when you have a loss, do you run for cover? Is that what you're suggesting?
The media. No. I think at that time I think that's the time the selectors had to stand up to the plate and protect the coaches and the captains. Maybe the media want to speak to the coach and the captains, which they will do, but I think it's up to whatever selector structure you have to act as a bit of a barrier between the team and the media. The media have got a job to do. And anybody who thinks that they can stop them doing that job are living on a different planet. So I see it as their job. The media don't like it because they want to speak to the players and the coaching staff. But unfortunately, somebody is better than no one. But because it's difficult explaining away defeat. Because if you speak to any captain, that is the thing that wears them down more than anything else.
It's interesting. I just want to, as an aside, I want to bring up the score between the West Indies and Pakistan. Pakistan were all out for 217. They're in Kingston, Jamaica. And West Indies are 8 for 251. 2 fairly ordinary scores for the West Indies due to the opening batting of their captain, Braithwaite, who got 97.
Yeah, run out.
Yeah. And Jason Holder did pretty well as well. It looks like the West Indies are a slight ascendancy there.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of it because there's nobody in the ground, Norman. It's just
no.
Yeah,
a pretty soulless sort of situation. So, whereas Lords is, I'm sure, is a fantastic atmosphere because there's a crowd. You know, there's as many Indian flags. They've got it. I don't know whether you've seen any of their coverage. There's flats overlooking the ground. This is sort of on the main gate side. So, and I said these are worth millions, these flats. And there's one that people are watching the game from there. They've got a pretty good view, and there's like sort of equal amounts of Indian flags and England flags in the same flat. So I don't know what's going on there.
It's the nursery end, right? The flats have the nursery end.
No, they're on the sort of mound side, so it's opposite. How can I describe? You're looking at the pavilions to the right-hand side, the bottom of the slope. So actually, the stand itself is a little bit lower than the one on the other side, so you can actually see the pitch. So.
Wow. Okay.
So
they are
I know that,
by the way, Sid. So they are worth a few bob. So.
Well, you've got Mick Jagger living around the corner. You've got David Bowie's original residence was somewhere around the corner. You had Paul McCartney that had a residence around the corner.
Paul McCartney's around the corner.
And you've got,
a lot of people from the entertainment world. The same in India. All the owners of the IPL teams seem to be somebody who's in Bollywood. So
that's true.
Indeed. Yep.
Right then, guys, I have to peel off and do my domestic chores. So are we on this evening, Norman?
Yes, we are. I'll send you a link. Just quickly, your predictions of the day. You're thinking what will happen?
My predictions of the day, and this will definitely blow up. So I'm saying that actually by tea, if England don't lose too many wickets, they'll be very close to the Indian score. So how the game goes from tea time with how many wickets England have got left will be I think a deciding factor. If England are batting day 4, then India have to be very careful because they'll have a lead by that stage. So and this is an opportunity for the Bairstows, the Butlers, Moen, in front of a full crowd. This is a time for them to, what better can you have than be able to walk out at Lord's, full crowd against India, and the game in the balance? What more do you want?
It's a dream.
Interesting. Quite positive. You're being very positive about everything on there.
It is when you're not a selector, no, when you can be as positive as you like. The job's not riding on it. So
yeah.
No, and I think they're two really good teams. There obviously some people who are in good form, some are not. But I think Sid's point about the rotation of the bowlers as the series goes on will be a really key issue. So some of the Indian guys, and they will respond to it because they'll have practice and overs under their belt. There is no substitute for overs out in the middle. You can spend as many hours in the gym or in the net. It's not the same thing. So if Sharma is struggling or was struggling yesterday, I expect to see a different Sharma today. So.
Yep.
All right, David. I'll let you know about the link, but it'll be, if you're available, you can come post stage play.
Great to see you as normal, Norman, as you.
Great to see you today,
David.
All right, and have a good day.
Thanks.
See you later.
All right, David. Talk to you a bit later.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy your Saturday.
Bye.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's amazing to get David to put a bit of context around things, but I think he's obviously being very careful what he says about what happens around the England camp. But there's no doubt that Sri Lanka is a mess, and Simon Wilson's not here to confirm that it is. I spent a lot of time with Arjuna Ranachunga over the years and saw firsthand what had happened. He's a very outspoken man. He was often, I don't want to say his life was under threat, but there were certain times when there was a lot of tension. And he mentioned Timothy Parla and his group, and Arjuna and his group, and then Jai Surya with the president, and then Aravinda de Silva and his camp, and then one of Arjuna's brothers and his camp. There's camps all over the joint.
Yeah, indeed.
Arjuna was probably the one that cared about cricket the most, but he became politicized. He became a part of the party. His situation changed yet again. He created a Minister of Ports area that he was involved with. Then all of a sudden, the Ports Authority had people that he knew in charge. It's smacks of nepotism all over the place, I'm afraid. Okay, you and I agree that if you wanted to have someone in power who was someone you know really well, and it was a very close friend of yours, you would trust them being in that position. But that doesn't mean that person should be in that position.
Absolutely.
Because it works. It may appear, you may think, oh, look, I want to bring Sid into that position because I trust Sid. We know each other really well. He'll do what I say, blah, blah, blah. But in fact, it's the opposite. It's that perception that you've just put someone in there that you know makes it look corrupt, doesn't it?
Indeed. Can be counterproductive at all times, because the best example of a counterproductive thing was Saurav Ganguly looked up to Greg Chappell. He said, I want him to be the coach of the Indian team, but look how it panned out. It didn't. Your preference, it bit you back in a very hard way. Although whatever Greg Chappell did at that time, if you have to look at it in perspective, it was actually very good. It's just that ego tussles, the bigger ego won on that day. And it all spilled over into the 2007 debacle. But he had at least laid the base for talent to come through. And merit was the basis of what Greg Chappell used to do. But it didn't agree with the Indian ethos.
Let's lift the lid on many of the international coaching selections over like a Mickey Arthur or a Tom Moody or a John Dyson or a Trevor Bayliss. I don't want to say in all countries. I don't think it's as bad in England for that matter, but certainly in the subcontinent. Are these coaches free to do what they want to do, or they're brought in to do something, independent and be great and save on the issue, but they're controlled?
I don't think
they're not at liberty, because if they don't follow what the board or country want to be done, they're going to be ousted as soon as their contract's finished, or if not earlier. So it's and sometimes they're not even paid, or they're paid. They're meant to be paid. They're not paid for. I can never comprehend a country having someone as a coach or a player, male or female, and not paying them. I mean, that's just. It's like having a company and having employees and not paying them. How can you survive? How can you get loyalty? You can't. But I mean, the women's cricket, I believe with Indian women, were not paid for months.
They're not paid for months, yep. But I think now the payment has come.
But that's not the point. That's not the point. Why?
But yet, why delay for a year? Why delay for a year? Yep.
Why weren't they paid on time? It doesn't make any sense. Or do they think we've got them if they want to play for their country, which means more than anything else? They'll put up with those conditions. And I guess that's right, because if you're going to say, I'm not playing, you're not playing me, I'm going elsewhere, well, where else are they going to go to? They're it's like the dream of their life to play for their country.
US cricket. Everybody who's getting rejected here are going to US cricket at this point in time. Unmukh Chand has gone, the 2012 Under-19 World Cup winning captain. He's no longer associated with India. He'll play for the US.
How old is he?
He was 27, Norman.
He is now 27.
Yes.
Wow, that's a real meaning. He's in his prime, you could argue.
He went out of India contention. He never came into India contention. That 2012 batch was really cursed in that sense. Not many people came through. Sandeep Sharma did well in the IPL. Unmukh Chand, the guy who scored a century in that final, did not even make it. I think even from Australia, in the 2012 batch, no one managed to get through apart from Gurinder Sandhu, I think. Will Boshisto did not make it. Curtis Patterson may have scored a century, but I think he's not firmly in the team, I suppose.
Well, you might see Curtis Patterson had injuries and he was out for some period of time. He was captain of New South Wales early this year against Usman Khawaja's Queensland team, and Queensland won. You, in my opinion, the two players that should be in the middle order of Australia for this Ashes Test series are Khawaja and Curtis Patterson.
Curtis Patterson, yep.
Because there are no other batsmen that are of any note. You got a message? You got something going on?
Yeah, I've got a message. Just one minute. It's from the boss.
Are you at work today? Are you at work today?
Yeah, I am at work. I mean, Sunday is my off. Just Sunday is my off.
But if there's when you say something's off, if there's something dramatic happens in the test match,
then I've got other people handling. I've got other people.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. That's good. So you have got that capability. Then that's good. You aren't tied to it, so to speak. Like Debashis, my God, he's day in day out. anything. He's
Indeed.
like it's. I mean, I get that feeling sometimes too. I haven't got that pressure because I'm not, employed by anyone. But the reality is that it must be pressure to be, basing your money on what you do with cricket because it's a love, it's a passion. I know, but it's a day when the season's on. There's no such thing as a day off.
Yeah, no day off. But I just get one day off, and that's it.
And you've got a lovely daughter there. I was saying, what happened? She was singing, or she was reciting. What was she doing?
She was dancing.
Dancing,
and
sorry.
She was playing the national anthem. It's 15th August. It's coming, Independence Day, so that's why the school is gearing up for a lot of activities in that sense.
How old is she?
She will turn 4 this November.
Oh my God! I couldn't judge age. I thought she's a bit older, but that's 4 years of age. How cute!
4 years, yeah. Time flies. I mean, she was. I got the news when I was in Dharamshala when she was born. I was covering the India-Australia Test match. That's why the India-Australia tests are very, very memorable for me. I was in Dharamshala. That 4th and final Test match was an absolute thriller.
That was a great game. What a great location. They should play more Test matches there.
They should.
Can you quickly tell me how do they organise that? How do they decide where they play? Is it who makes that? I mean, BCCI makes that decision, but
the BCCI makes it, and there is a rotation system of venues. I mean, supposing you've not got a venue for a particular period of time, they say, okay, in this cycle, let us put it there. A Test match or an ODI, the BCCI takes total.
So, how many grounds do they have? They have a pool of grounds. How many grounds do they actually of Test or ODI or international status? How many would you say?
Okay, there are lots. I mean, if I have to look at the north zone, there is Dharamshala, there is Mohali, there is Delhi. Then there is even Lucknow, the new stadium that has come out. It used to be Kanpur before, so that's 5. Then if you look at the
when you say Mohali, you mean Chandigarh, don't you?
Chandigarh, yeah, Chandigarh.
Yeah, okay.
Then if you look at the western zone, you've got Ahmedabad. Then you've got potentially Jaipur, but Jaipur doesn't host Test matches that much. So Ahmedabad, Indore, that's 3. If you look at the further south,
so that's 8 already. That's 8
already. Then in the east, you've got Kolkata, you've got Cuttack. Cuttack has hosted Test matches, so that's 10. You go down south, Vizag, Hyderabad, Chennai, Bangalore, then Mumbai, Nagpur. So that's 16. 16 venues.
That's just ridiculous.
Indeed. I mean, I think if you look at Australia, just 6 venues. That's it. If you play at the Northern Territories, Darwin and Cairns, that's 8.
But we could create more. We could go and talk about Des Moines or Hurstville. We could go through a number of grounds we really want to see. Yep. We
Junction
don't.
Oval.
So how many grounds? Sorry, what Test venues? Say Eden Gardens, Wankhede Stadium, Chinnaswamy in Bangalore, the Madras Cricket Club there. So are they mainstays? Are they must play every year? You must have a Test match there, or it's not like that?
No, I mean it's changed. They want to get Test matches more inside of the country. It's okay. You play in Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata. That's the mainstay. But Test cricket in Kolkata has dipped in popularity. If you look at it, even in Delhi, Test cricket has stagnated.
Okay, this is what I'll quite quickly pull up. This person here who's saying if I answer their question, not subscribing. I don't go towards people telling me I'll answer my question. I don't subscribe. That's not the way I operate. I answer everybody's question. So this fellow here, I'm talking about you right now. Do not ever come to me and say the question's not answered. You're not subscribed. Then you know what? I won't answer any of your questions because I don't believe in that. That's disgraceful. It's not on. It's not about I have to answer your question. I answer everybody's questions. So don't ever accuse me of not. It upsets me. Sid, I don't like that. I find that extremely rude. Don't you think?
Indeed. I mean, you can't force anybody to answer. I mean, if you find the question, it's great. Then you can answer.
Today, we haven't answered many questions, people. Every session that I do, and you know that, Sid, everybody online knows that, I answer almost every single question. When we have a day where David Graveney's talking with great detail, we need to focus on him. We can't get questions asked about what's the weather like every 5 minutes. We've got to be able to answer, listen to a man of great stature,
Indeed.
and you need to
Indeed.
appreciate that, guys. I will
Absolutely.
always answer almost all questions, okay? And do not repeat the thing and then say to me something like this. This is I'm supporting. No, well, you're not supporting by saying to me something like, "I will not subscribe." That's not something that I want to be told. That's offensive. It's like me saying, "I don't want you on my channel. I'm going to block you." I would never do that.
Yeah.
I respect everybody. So respect the person who spends hours organizing these video hookups, who spends a lot of time nurturing contacts, get people on the show so you can listen to them. And don't think that me not answering a question is worthy of me being judged by subscription, because I'm very proud of my channel and I want to be treated with respect. So do not hang it over my head. I'm sorry I'm making a point of that. I find that really offensive. That person should be very aware of that.
Yeah. You're just 1,000 behind Virat Kohli as far as number of runs is concerned. You're 19,000. He's got 20,000 runs. You're getting there.
I'm catching. I'm on the front foot.
Yeah. So
17
venues, 17 test venues. The BCCI wants to get more people into the interiors of India. Test cricket is saturated in all these big centers like Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai, Kolkata. Chennai has not hosted a test match for close to 4-5 years. Before the 2021 series, we didn't host a test in Chennai for 5 years. That was how bad it was.
Yeah, so I'm going to answer this guy's question because I'm not happy with the way he's approached it. But I'm scrolling through. I can't find any question. He can't put one word and no answer. I can't even find a question. Yeah, in fact, his question doesn't exist. There is no question.
Yes.
So he said he wants to ask a question. He wants to scroll, but there's not even a question there. Okay, well, let's just defeat the purpose. Okay, all right. So England, who will? This question out. I mean, Siddharth Norman.
Who should be the Indian coach after November? That is from India-New Zealand series.
Okay,
that's the question he's asking.
A question of India.
Yeah.
Look,
who should be the Indian coach after November?
Okay. Well, there's no doubt. I think it should be pretty obvious to everybody because Rahul Dravid has been the coach of the under-19s, was given the effort to coach or be in charge of the coaching side of it for the so-called A side. That's obviously the grooming of Dravid is there. Would you agree? It would be a surprise unless Dravid says himself, "I don't want it."
Yeah, but that's the key. That's the key because Dravid is very hesitant to devote full time to national duties. He is very content in building up the grassroots. Like, for example, he wants under-19 India. I want to build the grassroots. I will ensure that the NCA is one of your best bodies when it comes to fitness, when it comes to talent nurturing and everything. I think he's very hesitant to devote full time to the India national duties because it will involve a lot of traveling, being away from family. Here, at least he can devote a certain time to his family. But that is the key. Now, after November, what's going to happen? Let's see. Because
is it definite that Shastri will not continue? Is that fact?
Not yet. I don't think so. We'll have to wait until the end of the World T20. If the BCCI agrees on the contract extension, he may continue. We don't know.
But what I'm getting at is, has Shastri himself said, "I'm going to stop in November"? He hasn't said that.
No, nothing. It's sources. It's always sources. How reliable are those sources? We never know in India. Sources can say that there was a Rohit and Virat Kohli rift. Sources can even say that, the Indian cricket team does not want to play against a certain nation. Anything can happen with sources. So I just don't rely according to these sources. But let Shastri come out.
I personally can't see Shastri leaving the job. I think that Shastri will want to continue.
Maybe if he wins the World T20, maybe he'll have a rethink. Maybe. Because under Shastri, India have become the number one team. No doubt in bilateral contests, they have been superb. But it's the ICC. That is the only one stumbling block.
But you see, not winning an ICC tournament doesn't mean that the coach has failed. By getting to a World Test Championship final, which is a testament of several years of contesting that, is a brilliant effort. They were beaten by New Zealand today, which was unfortunate, but they still should hold their head up high because they were in that match.
Yeah, I know. But Norman, I think there's one more factor that maybe Ravi Shastri might not be able to continue. He's turning 60. Now, according to the recommendations of the Lodha panel, I think you can't continue after the age of 60. There has to be a cooling off period. You remember after the spot fixing scandal in the IPL, there were a whole host of reforms that were initiated. Like, you can't have 3 consecutive terms, you can't have conflict of interest, you can't be over 60. I think he may fall into that purview if he's after November, because he will turn 60, Ravi.
I can be very cheeky. What's the difference between Shastri at 59 and 60 or 61? There's no difference.
Nothing.
I find that, I think what I do think is if a coach is in the position of coaching the team and things are going well and they want to continue, if he turns 60, doesn't mean he gets kicked out the door. It should be he can continue to coach until he's ready to go based on his does that make sense?
Indeed.
He got the job before he was 60. Well, then he's still, in the position, he's doing a great job. It's a hard one.
But in Australia, if I have to look at it, there was a very intriguing case. Jeff Marsh, he took over the Australian team as coach in 1997 and he had a very successful run. But then why did he get replaced?
Yeah, that's look.
Because then came John Buchanan. Remember, he wasn't a player, but he was a great man manager. I don't know. Shane Warne may not testify to that, but
Shane Warne hated him.
Yeah, because of the boot camp, apparently, I think,
and also the homework that even Mickey Arthur used to put through.
Yeah.
That sort of everything was documented, everything was philosophized. Really, John Buchanan wasn't everybody's cup of tea because he was successful, yes, but he was also somebody who went into like putting homework under the door, and there's a limit to how far you can go with that. Really,
Indeed.
And you're not going to get everybody's support doing that as well.
Absolutely.
Only a great coach can conquer a gabble with net bowlers who weren't even from Darby's interact. It's true. Marnus Darwin is very true. It was just you have to remember that Shastri had a lot to do with that.
Indeed. Virat Kohli was gone, so you had to have a leadership void. Then people started getting injured. Shami injured, Umesh injured, Saini injured, Ashwin injured, Bumrah injured. It needed great man management and leadership to ensure that India got through that, and they won. So yes, this is without doubt Shastri's the greatest period at that time.
I mean, I love to have been in the rooms hearing what was said by, firstly, Kohli, then Rahane, and then obviously Shastri throughout. Shastri was the commonality between the whole lot. And even the influence of Kohli from a distance, from home in India. I'm sure he was on the phone regularly to them. Did they have Zoom meetings? Did they talk with Kohli? Did they not talk with Kohli? What did they do? Did Kohli completely stay out of it? I'd love to know all that, wouldn't you?
Yep. I think there was an article in which how did the transformation happen? I think Kohli gave the reins totally to Rahane, told him handle it how much ever you wanted. Don't let the defeat in Adelaide bother you. Shastri gave him a free hand, and that's it.
Well, that's what that if that's exactly what happened, I'm absolutely what's the word for it? I'm absolutely I praise heavily Kohli and Shastri. If that's what they did to Rahane, I'm absolutely gobsmacked how good that was. It's a great thing.
Yep.
It's a hard one to know. I mean, ultimately, when a captain goes like he did for a personal reason, which were very admirable, for him to do that and that sort of transition, they must have had a very good connection. Kohli and Rahane must have got along pretty well.
Yep, they do get along well. They are. I mean, the partnerships that they've had against Australia, the 2014 one, which they're 262, that was superb in Melbourne. And that was the start of the Rahane Kohli partnership. Like, yes, these guys know each other pretty well. And that's why the tuning is there. That's why Rahane is the vice captain. It's not Rohit, if you have to look at it in tests. Rohit did not help himself by not performing well in test matches, unfortunately, when he got the opportunity. But Rahane has been Virat Kohli's go-to man for every kind of situation.
And Pujara, I would imagine, too.
Yeah, Pujara gives you that solidity, but that assurance is now missing, if I have to look at it. Look, you can gobble up balls. Fine, you can wear the bowlers down, but if you don't contribute, it's no point.
I don't necessarily mean I'm not talking about his on-field antics. It's his off-field antics. I believe he's a man of few words, but when he does say, they listen.
Yep, they do.
So his combination of Pujara, Rahane,
you have to tell Pujara, like, supposing if you're taking an interview before, you have to tell him, like, what is the topic that's going to be about. If it's anything controversial, he'll just shy away. He'll just go into a shell. If it's anything normal, then he'll open up to you. That's how Cheteshwar Pujara is.
And what do you think's happening? And I'm not expecting to comment fully on this, but the way the BCCI now are not allowing media, like interview conferences, to be used, and there's no direct access to players, etc., etc. I understand why that has to be done, because of the sheer volume of people wanting to do it. I can get that.
Yep.
But they need to balance that somewhat, don't they? They need to, I don't know, there needs to be a bit more balance. That would be perhaps, I mean, Australia is not exactly perfect either, but accessibility is, I think they need to try to work on.
Maybe one or two journalists in India have access to a lot of players. That's about it. The others, you may probably have to work upon reach. You have to build contacts. If you build contacts, it takes ages. So that's why many people just are fed up. I mean, there's a lot of thing that you can't ask him about that. You can't ask him about this. You can't ask him about certain issues. There's already a preset rule of censorship that you have to do before you even ask the player. If you lose the ICC World Test time, you keep on bombarding them with, okay, why did you lose? What happened? They'll just shut off and then say, no, we don't want to answer. Kohli gives it back. So, oh God, this.
Oh, is it a doctor talking? It must be.
Yes, it's a doctor.
He's a dentist.
Talking. He's a dentist, yeah. He's focusing on this. It's gotten chipped.
I've never seen people comment on my beard, my eyes on the day if they're a little bit bloodshot. It's because I've just woken up, perhaps. I mean, or your two. That's hilarious. I think it's cute. Dr. A. Ramchandran Rai, thank you for your comments, as your appreciation. I need some teeth work. You haven't mentioned about me.
Now I have to really watch my smile, because he's noticed my smile. That's how it's come about.
I've never noticed that before, so it can't be very serious, to be honest.
Well, it needs a doctor to know, and he got it.
So Sangeeta Paul says, can Wokes play? Well, he can't play this match, of course. Chris Wokes, it did sound from the conversation that Root, Bairstow and Anderson had in their press conferences that they were banking on Chris Wokes playing in this test match, but he didn't come up that way at all. So that's an issue that Chris Wokes would have probably gone ahead of Moeen Ali, to be honest with you. They brought Moeen Ali in the squad because of Chris Wokes, which is interesting because they're you would argue they're all rounders, but one's a spinning all rounder, one's a bowling all rounder. So Munchie says, smile away, Sid. And then all of a sudden, Baramarani jumps up and says, hi, Munchie. Wokes recovering from a bruised heel. I'm aware of that, but it's as if that he was meant to be playing. He's in the squad, correct? He is in the squad.
Yep.
He is a part of the squad. So he mustn't be very far away. And it's almost implied that by the third game, he'll come into contention.
Yeah, there's a 9-day break for the second and the third test. So yes, definitely he will come. He has to come back because England don't have that much of depth. If you have to look at it, if Anderson gets injured, imagine if Anderson gotten injured, what would have happened to the England bowling lineup? It would have been easily 464 instead of 364. I'll tell you that.
Young Yasandi is there. She's saying she's a regular. Munchie's obviously there. And Barami's there. Zangipa's despite having told me he's going to unsubscribe, he's still there. is Pakistan World Test Championship. Their games, all of them are from now on, aren't they? They're all included.
Yeah.
All right, so let's have a look here. That statement. That's absolutely not going to happen. Let's make it clear to our viewers. Virat Kohli is not going to be out of the side indefinitely. Again, having captained his 63rd match as captain, 59% winning record, he's not going anywhere. He's captain for the duration. He's as captain as long as he wants to be, I think. Okay, he's lost the toss about 35 times, but that's not the reason why you drop him. So that Kohli being dropped is out of the question. I would argue, Rahul and Sharma are out of the question.
After 12 years, you are having a lean patch for Virat Kohli. Give him a long rope. He has to get a massive rope, because at the end of the day, till 2019, Kohli used to score runs for fun. A slump will happen in every sportsman's career.
Absolutely.
And he will bounce back. It's only a matter of time before Kohli bounces back. It's only a matter of time.
And the reality is that, even with Pujara, he's performed so well over a long period of time too. Even Rahane, not that long ago in Adelaide, was captain when they won through the series in the Gabba. Not Adelaide, but at the Gabba. These guys have had great seasons. We're not going to drop them in any hurry. I noticed Michael Atherton, for one of the first times, mentioned it to Dinesh Karthik. And Dinesh Karthik's comments were that he thinks Rahane's in more danger than Pujara.
Oh.
That were his words.
That is very... Because if you remove Rahane, okay, I can imagine the furor. I can imagine that. But again, what do you do about the leadership with them?
Exactly. I mean, what I'm getting at is Dinesh Karthik should not be... Is he in a position to say definitively, Rahane's in more trouble than Pujara? How can he say that? That's not something that, there's no basis to him saying that, I would have thought. I don't think it's a matter of one being more than the other. They're both under somewhat of pressure. They're not performing. But I actually think, unless something dramatic happens, I think the whole batting lineup that's there now will not be changed for the 5 tests. It'll take an injury. Yeah. It'll take a dramatic slump in form to the point where they're infighting or there's something they do wrong. I think they're going to be, or India, especially if India win this test match, and having gone so close in the first, there's no way you're going to change the team for the rest of the series.
Nope.
Will they? I mean,
maybe the bowling, but the batting, I don't think so.
No, bowling's a different story. I'm not talking about bowling. Batting. David Gravely said it himself. They're likely to keep the same batting structure the whole time. They've got backups, yes, for injuries in particular, but Rahul's now proved himself. Sharma's proved himself. Kohli's going to be there. Both. If India win, then there's no changes likely. Yep. If they lost the first 2 matches and lost the 2 matches soundly, and the batting was awful, and there was no discipline, then you'd think they might consider it. But none of the players are embarrassed.
But again, I just hope that the knee-jerk reaction doesn't happen. If it's a loss or it's a win, supposing in the 3rd test, Pujara, Rahane fail again, then the knee-jerk reaction, the reaction will even come that, it's enough. The rope given is just too much. I just hope that doesn't happen.
But it's all about the dynamics of how they're playing. If they're playing badly, there's evidence of not really putting their best foot forward, playing bad shots, whatever the case may be, they lose all the first 3 matches, then yes. But I don't think we're going to see a change, especially if India win. If India win this match, there'll be no changes unless it's based upon an injury.
Yep.
Virat scored 41. I mean, that's not exactly poor. There's a lot to be said about that.
This is on Pakistan that they're debating on. Pakistan's opponents. They are a worthy contender for the final this time, looking at how their opponents...
You're talking about the T20 World Cup?
No, the World Test Championship final.
Well, they're all worthy. I mean, it's a matter of points, isn't it? I mean, the reality is, I can't see Australia. Well, wait and see what happens in national, but I can't see Australia figuring in it. England will certainly be there. India certainly will be there. New Zealand will certainly be there. and then maybe another side will be. But let's even think before that to the World Cup.
World T20, yeah.
Yeah, that again, we've been talking a lot about this. England, India, West Indies are 3 favourites to be in the final 4. The 4th spot will be between New Zealand and Pakistan. I think that's pretty clear. I'd be shocked that anyone else will get in there unless something dramatic happens, but I can't see that form reversal.
Yeah. Because India and New Zealand are in the same group, along with Pakistan. So, whereas England and West Indies are in the same group. So, the top 2, it'll take a big tussle. I mean, if Australia spring a surprise, we don't know what will happen. Plus, they have Sri Lanka. Plus, you have South Africa. Of course, South Africa might choke. They will choke, definitely.
So South Africa is simply not good enough. Their batting is simply not good enough. Bowling's not bad, but their batting's not good enough. Sri Lanka's ordinary. Bangladesh, well, Bangladesh could be a bit of a surprise, but I don't necessarily agree with it.
Yeah.
But I mean, more importantly, Australia's got no form, can't be even considered. Maxwell and Warner have to play out of the skin if they do play, and their bowling's not good enough.
But will they come in automatically? If they do well, in supposing Norman, Maxwell, Smith, and Warner do incredibly well in the IPL, will they come back automatically to the Australian side? Because I read recently that the people who are out of the side currently, they cannot automatically come back. I read somewhere.
And that would be very fair, because they have decided not to go to the warm-up matches in Bangladesh and West Indies. They decided they were not picked. That makes sense. If they were available, probably would have been picked. So they've made a life decision not to go. And I respect that. If it was a life decision not to go because of COVID, I respect that. But if it's all centered around the IPL, which it obviously is, then we've got an issue. And the IPL has exposed them because of the split in the IPL dates. It's exposed them, hasn't it? It's forced their hand. It moved to another set of dates. That meant they couldn't be caught up in quarantine somewhere. I mean, when does the IPL start again? September
19th.
Okay. So it's currently August 14th. So the Australian team would have returned back to Australia, and that would be in 2 weeks lockdown. Even there's some word, I think it could even be longer than that, but they'll be in 2 weeks lockdown. So they come back, they're in 2 weeks lockdown. They can't be with their family even, they're by themselves. Then they'll want to do whatever they're doing. They'll have very little time to then go to the UAE and do what they want to do. So that's why they didn't go. That's why the Warners and Light didn't go, because they didn't want to be caught up in this. But if there was even a chance they may not have been allowed to come back to Australia, it could have been that. You never know. They could have contracted COVID and been not just. They could have been out for weeks on these because they would have been recovering. So there's lots of issues. They didn't want to risk that. They wanted to go from Australia to the UAE to play the IPL without any interference, and the World Cup following.
Yep. Well, currently, if you look at it in the UAE, the COVID cases are still there. I mean, it's not gone away totally. UAE, 1,200 cases even in the last 24 hours. So it's not gone away totally there.
No, it hasn't. But those tournaments. But okay, what's the current totals in India? They're still high. What are the current totals?
30,000 cases every day. 30 to 40,000 cases.
But considering the size of the population, that shouldn't be as alarming at all. I mean,
but yet again, we might have a surge. Whatever happens elsewhere, we get a surge after 3-4 weeks. We don't know. Travel is now not restricted. You can move around. People are not wearing masks anymore. Just needs something very small to trigger off another big wave.
But you've got vaccination levels are at what percentage?
They are high.
What can you give me an idea?
I'm getting my second dose in the next week.
Same here. I'm getting my second dose in 6 days' time.
Yep. So in that sense, that's how it's progressing at a good rate. 40-50% of the population is getting vaccinated with both the doses. Almost all are getting the first dose done.
Well, we've got about 16. I think it's 20%, not even that, of the first dose, and like 6% of the second. We're in such a mess.
Indeed.
All right, so we're looking at half an hour before the game starts.
Yeah.
Root's actually. It's even. I mean, not even realizing that Joe Root's not at 48.
Yeah. He's
He's
proving to
not
be the
at.
difference maker yet again. Yet again, Joe Root.
And as I said, I think I may have said with you yesterday that none of the top 10 English batsmen have got batting averages over 50.
Only Root.
Of all time. Of all
Yeah.
time. The top highest 10 run scorers of England, not one is above the 40s. Root's the
50.
highest at 49.
I know. I mean, it's very surprising. They play the most tests, but they don't have anybody in the 50 category. Very surprising.
It's funny because a lot of Indian batsmen are over 50.
Yeah.
I mean, Australia.
Dravid, Tendulkar, Kohli, those three guys were over 50. Even the Australians.
I know.
Ricky
Many.
Ponting, Steve
Many.
Waugh, Hayden. No, Hayden, did he get to 50?
But I think he did. I think he's well and truly 50.
Yeah, I think 50.2.
Michael Clark was close. I think they're all 50. We've got a lot of over 50. And it's funny how England batsmen don't have that. It's a bit bizarre. I don't quite know why.
I think apart from Hobbs and Hutton, no one else has ever gotten.
Well, they've got 60, haven't they? I think they got 58, 60. They got some very high batsmen.
Yeah, 56 is Hobbs. Hammond is 58. Hutton was 56 as well. Herbert Sutcliffe was 60.
Yes, I mean, that's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Boycott. I don't know how much Boycott had.
I might check that. I've got an iPad that all of a sudden 1 minute it turns itself, 1 minute it turns itself. I don't know what's going on, but I was pulling up all the stats. It's an amazingly interesting stat to see all this. I often trawl through it. I love looking through it. One of my favorite things to do.
47.7. Nah.
But still, that's good. I mean, anything above 45 is very, very good. Let's be honest. But over 50 is
especially in a test match, yeah.
But over 50, now you're talking. That's when you've got true caliber. I mean, maybe 99.94 is not so bad either.
I mean, Sir Don, today was the day he could have gotten an average of 100. He just missed out by 4 runs.
And having had can you imagine sitting in the lounge room of, who was it? I've had a momentary blank here. Arthur Morris. I'm in the lounge room of Arthur Morris with his partner, his wife, sitting up there in the northern New South Wales coast. We're having a coffee. He's got very little memorabilia. Most of it he's given away, and he's into paintings. And we're talking about the fact that he batted with Bradman at the other end when he got that duck, and he got I think he got 170 or something, and he basically stopped the need to have another innings because of his good batting. And in effect, stopped Bradman from getting an average of 100. Can you imagine the enormity of a person who has that, I'll call it weight on his shoulders or whatever, who can talk about something like that, and having the luxury that I did in his final years to be able to talk to that man in his lounge room.
73 years ago. Oh, 73 years ago.
And of course, Neil Harvey is still alive.
I think only Neil Harvey is alive, right?
That's it.
No one else.
He's the second oldest living Australian cricketer. There's another fellow, his name's eluding me now. He's also alive, but that's it. And Neil's second. And I love, you should see, Doug Waller's got a little paper notebook. He's written down all the players, and when they die, he strikes them off. And I go, that's very nasty. You put a line through the name when they're no longer alive. What's that for? That's nasty. It's not the way you say you're dead. It's hilarious. He's got his name there, and he follows them all, and he's very, very aware of who's what. And
indeed,
it's quite what an intriguing thing to have. I mean, to be an Australian player and watching other Australian players die. You're in an elite company immediately because you have to be in that group to start with, aren't you? Yeah. Amazing.
99.94. I mean, 9994 is a pin code somewhere, right, in Australia? The Australian Cricket Australia headquarters?
Yeah. 99.94. What a ridiculous batting average.
I know. And yet, John's average, forget the average, most of his records have still not been broken.
And yet. So what? Still not broken?
Still not broken. Most runs in a series, 974. Kohli made 973, but that was across 16 innings in an IPL. Sir Don did it 80 years back, 974, 5 innings. 2 triple tons. No one has gotten more than 2 triple tons. Only Sehwag has 2. Sangakkara, Lara has 2. 12 double tons. No one has overhauled that.
But Baramarani is saying, where is our Norman? Long time no see. We need the spider. Well, he may not come on live reports in the near future, but he'll be on recorded events. Don't worry.
Wow. Lara has a 400. Yep. And 300 in a single day. No one has ever come close to that. Sehwag did 293, but no one else.
Staggering,
and that too, in that era when wickets were not so flat, bats were not so big, bowling was
wickets were not so flat. That if it was they were not covered.
Yep.
Sid.
Sticky
Can you imagine playing at Lords and it rains overnight? You don't cover the wicket the entire night. The next day it'd be a quagmire.
Yeah.
And if it dries up, there'll be unevenness all over the place.
Indeed. And the only captain in history, 0-2 down, winning the series 3-2.
And to have a bowling attack that was allowed to bowl short at you with about a half a dozen guys up your backside.
Yep.
And he's still and they've still got over 50 as an average in that series.
56. He averaged 56 in that.
I mean, look, I'm very lucky. I stayed overnight in his home in Barrel, stayed in his room.
Wow.
Just the aura of that place is hard to explain to you. It is the most prestige place. It is the mecca of sport, not just cricket.
Indeed.
The most incredible sports person ever in any code, his actual home.
That's my pilgrimage spot, which I want to go if I come in 2022.
Well, it should be everybody's. It should be Jack Nicklaus. It should be Roger Federer. It should be every sports person in the world. Michael Jordan. What do you want to? It should be all of them because that is the most decorated sports person ever. Babe Ruth, when he met him back in that era when Babe Ruth was deemed to be like a Bradman, of course. Yeah. They looked at each other and said, "You're my equal."
Wow.
And Babe Ruth was, I wouldn't say he was arrogant, but he was certainly, he was aware of how good he was. And for him to acknowledge Bradman is quite incredible. All right. So we've got now some 20 minutes before the match starts. I'm not seeing any reason for there to be any delays at this point.
No, it's, I think, a sunny day today.
Well, or when you say sunny, that's probably realistically overcast rather than true. I mean, the way that Munchie and the like keep saying, "Oh, it's going to be sunny for 5 days." What they mean is it's not raining for 5 days. Overcast is almost deemed to be clear. I'm just trying to pull up the. I don't know if you noticed a quick info I have now. If you try to click on something, there's an advert above it, and you can only click on the advert, not the point you want to click. So it forces you to go somewhere. It's a horrible trait at the moment.
Indeed.
Quick info is actually quick info was actually started by an Indian group of people. Is that right?
Yep.
Oh, they've done a great job.
Oh, phenomenal job.
What do we
Crick
have
Buzz and
before
Crick Info have done phenomenal service.
But I'm trying to work out what do we have before that?
Nothing. Wisden. You just had your Wisden Almanac reports. That's it.
So effectively, but that's no longer owned by these Indian people. It's now owned by ESPN, which is the American. Yep. So the Americans, it became ESPN Quick Info as opposed to before it was just simply Quick Info, wasn't it?
Yeah. Correct.
All right. So yeah, I'm sort of looking at the score as we sit here now. We've got 20 minutes to go. I'm looking at the fact that, as what David Gravy said, and we've all talked about, the fact that Joe Root is so quickly onto 48. It's like we don't even notice it. It's phenomenal.
That shows that Root is in great form. If you notice that he's already on 50, without the blink of an eye, he's just come there. That shows he's in good form.
And just like a blink of an eye, Gill's here.
Yes.
Yeah, happy to join when Root is being discussed. Since we are on that subject, Root completed 2,000 runs against India yesterday, which is also his highest against any opposition, and
Yeah.
he's done it at a very healthy average. He's done it at an average of 57, while his career average is 49. And
Yeah.
the biggest, and this is so. This is not even the worst stat as an Indian fan that you might come across. Sometimes averages can be inflated because of one good series or one huge series, but Joe Root has played against India in 4 to 5 series, and only once his average has been under 45, and that
Yeah.
was back in 2018 when India were touring England. And when I say it was under 45 because it wasn't that bad. It was actually an average of 35, where it scored 320 runs, and he was batting at number three. So.
Yeah.
There were those factors as well, and even then he had managed to score 320 runs. So
And
Joe
that's
Root has
both
always
it's both in India and England, isn't it?
no that
Yeah.
what the average of 57. Yes, yes,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. In 2018, England didn't come to India. It was in 2016, and when England did come to India in 2016, he had 650s, no hundreds, thankfully, but 650s. So Joe
No,
Root
he
has always
scored 100, right? He scored 100 and 550s in that
uh,
2016 series.
I don't
Root?
think he scored 100. I think he scored 100 in 2018. I'm not sure. Maybe he might have.
Yeah. He and
That's
Cook scored 100 each. That's what I think.
Well, Alistair Cook's the other one. He's also captain England, as we know, and he's also batted very well against India. He has a good record against India as well.
I think among the big four, I mean, if you look at it, barring Kane Williamson to a certain extent, I think Steve Smith and Joe Root have performed consistently in tests against India.
So that there's another similarity between Joe Root and Alistair Cook, that both of them made debut against India in the same cities, the different grounds. Alistair Cook made his debut in 2006 in Nagpur in the old
Yeah.
ground, which was Jamtha.
Yeah. No, the VCA ground is the old one. The
the-
Jamta is the new one.
Yeah, sorry. So I thought I got it wrong, but I think even that was in Jamtha. So, but Joe Root made it in 2009 in Nagpur, but in the new ground. So, both of them have a lot of similarities, and tormenting India the same way, no doubt.
Yep.
So, okay, as of today, we look at the ICC rankings and what have you. Root and Williamson are higher than Kohli, correct?
Yeah, might have been. I don't follow the rankings that much. Might have been the case.
I'm not trying to judge who's better or worse, but you would have to argue in the recent and within recent form, Williamson and Root have excelled, haven't they?
If you look at the last 1.5 year, for sure,
Yep.
a lot of people have done better than Virat. It's not even a question.
But even having said that, though, if you ask people generally, they would still rate Kohli the best out of all of them, which is a very intriguing viewpoint. Obviously, his overall record still is incredible. His batting average is still around 60. What is it? What's his batting average?
Kohli's
it's 57.
His overall batting average is 57. That is stupendous, isn't it? Really, having scored 2,700s is more than Williamson and more than Root. So it's very interesting. It's a great situation to be in. We have to say that Williamson and Root are excelling over the last year and a half. But Kohli's was so far ahead before that he's maintained.
His current test, I'll tell you his averages now. I have got it open on my screen. His average in tests is 51.6. 51.6 in tests. ODIs is 59. T20 is 52.6.
Which is staggering. Absolutely staggering to be over 50 in all three formats. Staggering. So his test one is 51, but that's still higher. That's still higher than certainly Root, for example.
Yeah.
And you would imagine
lower than Williamson, but much lower than Smith.
It was Steve Smith. When was the last time he played a test match with the Gabba? He hasn't played at all since that. That's January, for God's sake.
But his average in tests is still 59.
It must be pretty frustrating to be the Australians at the moment. They've played virtually no Test cricket. They've played.
I have a theory which a lot of people might not agree with, but in terms of ability as a Test match batsman, I'd say Root is probably ahead of everyone else. The reason why I say that is if you look at the country by country record, uh, Joe Root isn't bad in any of the places. I think what comes as a huge shock to me is that Joe Root averages under 40 in Australia, where he should be averaging a
Yeah,
lot more. Because I
indeed.
personally feel, I personally feel that Australia is amongst the easiest places to bat because there is bounce and pace, but that bounce
The
and pace is
easiest places to bat. Are you kidding me?
no. If you
Now
compare
it
it with
is.
South
Now it
if you
is.
compare
Now
it
it
with
is.
if you compare it with South Africa, if you compare it with England, if you compare it with India, it's definitely easier because the bounce and pace is consistent. In India, you don't get consistent pace and bounce. The ball gets soft. It becomes difficult to score runs. Australia, the ball stays hard. If you get in, you can literally play shots, through the line. There isn't a lot of movement. So, it comes as a huge shock to me that Joe Root doesn't average 40, at least 45 in Australia. He averages around 38.
And I
And if
think
you break,
out of his 650s there, all have been over 80,
yeah, yeah.
70,
So
80.
he's
That shows that he's missing out on those key moments.
and if you look at the country records of say Steve Smith and Virat Kohli averages 36 in England, right? But he still averages over 50 in other countries.
Yeah.
Now,
Which,
if you look
which is
at
very
if you
impressive.
yeah, if you look at Steve Smith, he averages 41 in South Africa, which is again one of the most difficult places to bat. There, Joe Root averages 50.
Yep.
There, Joe Root averages 50. So I'd say technically, if we are to talk of the ability alone, I'd say Joe Root is the best in terms of ability of the four players. uh, there's another reason why I don't say that Virat has the same ability as Joe Root in test matches is because in test matches it is important to play late, right? It
Yeah.
is important to play late to cover for the late swing and bounce that might happens. But Virat is a predominantly front foot player, and which is why you rarely see Virat playing the cut or the dab, which is why he also, doesn't have that many scoring opportunities which Joe Root has. You look at Joe Root, he's never committing on the front foot. He's never committing on the front foot, and that is why he always has that extra second or two, which a Virat may not have. But Williamson and Joe Root have it. So that is why I say that in terms of sheer ability, I think that Joe Root is the best. But in terms of performances, and if you break it down in terms of numbers, then it is hard to beat Steve Smith. But however, what would be a very interesting study is what would have been Smith's record if he had not played half of his test matches in Australia, because I genuinely feel that among the four countries, Australia is the easiest place to bat because of the consistent bounce and pace. Maybe he
I've
would have
got
still scored runs. Maybe he would have still scored runs, but I'm not sure if his average would have been 59. It might have been around 54 or 55.
I've got this something within me that's telling me the way that we're dissecting Coley. There's going to be a day, and it won't be too far away, when suddenly Coley will click into gear, and it'll be like a Ferrari. He'll just take off, and all it takes is that one Coley innings where he breaks through this. Like for example, the 40 odd he got in the first innings. Had he got through that, because he struggled, you could see him struggling. Once he started to get through it, once he could start to get on top of it, he'll explode. And I think there'll be a succession of matches where he'll get a lot of runs. I also think with Rohit Sharma, the way he batted in the first innings, he's also on the precipice now of getting through and then scoring really, really big. That's what I believe. And that's Pujara and Rahane to a lesser extent. But India, all they need is something to go their way to break a few shackles, and they're going to absolutely crush England. And that's what I'm still hoping, that at some stage, maybe the third test, that this epiphany happens and we will see them absolutely crunching on for the rest of the series. That's my thoughts. I don't know why. It's like a volcano that's trying to erupt. Hasn't picked days it's going to go bang.
See, you can say that about most batsmen, that once they strike form, then
No,
they.
you can't say that about batsmen. I'm saying it about these guys.
No, I'm so once you strike form, you want to carry. What you are essentially saying is that if Virat strikes form, then his returns would be absolutely through the roof, which others may not be able to match it. But then
Exactly.
there are batsmen and players like Rahane as well who strike form, score a good inning, score a good score a century or score a 70, 80, but they don't carry forward the form. So there are also those examples. So what you are saying might be true for the likes of the likes of Rohit and Kohli, but I'm not necessarily sure that it might be true for the likes of Pujara and Rahane because he plots his own downfall, and Pujara is the kind of batsman who will always score attritional runs. He's not a free flowing batsman. So when you're not a free flowing batsman, a one good innings may not turn into three or four good innings together. It will still be a battle of attrition. So and it will have to be relied upon batting long with the opposition, not having a fifth bowler, or someone like a Stark always giving some leeway or the other, and then being a spinner who Pujara can attack. But if you'll always have four pacers who can come in and bowl at you day in and day out, then it becomes difficult for a Pujara to even carry forward the confidence of a one good innings.
Okay, I'm going to say this much. I still think Kohli is like there. Root, Williamson, and the rest are here. Even Smith are even there. Why? Because I'm talking about a batsman over all three formats. Root, Williamson, Smith do not go anywhere near.
When you combine three formats, it is pretty clear. But if you are to break down format by format, then it may not be the case.
But that's a talent in itself. That's an ability in itself to be able to do that. To have a batting average of over 50 in all three formats is phenomenal.
No, I will just say one thing. Kohli, when it comes to limited overs, he is far, far ahead of the rest of the pack. Yeah. Far, far ahead. Be it ODIs and T20s. In tests, it's Steve Smith, followed by very, very closely by Kohli, Root, and Williamson. In that order, I will place them. Maybe Root, because he's not been able to convert most of his 50s into hundreds, that probably goes against him. I mean, look at he had so many hundreds for the taking in Australia. So many hundreds. He just let it go.
But okay, having said all that, really, and I'm getting a comment here, Rich. It's funny how people normally comment on the side of the YouTube channel. I've got Richard Vernon and Munch. They often get me on Messenger while we're talking. I have to see their message. Richard said, going to disagree with Gill, Williamson is the best. Yeah. And I'll agree with that because in the match that counts the most, the World Test Championship match, Williamson scored 50s in both innings, correct? When it was most needed.
No, he fell for 49 in the first innings. He hit a 50 in the second. 100 runs.
That they were both significant runs in those two innings, though.
Indeed, it was.
So on that basis, in the game that counted most, he did the best. That has to hold weight.
He did. Yeah. But again, I've always argued that in this entire thing of batting, if you have to look at it in test matches in particular, it's not been the Fab Four. It's always been the Fab Five. I'm not including Babar Azam in this. There was one Pakistani who always flew under the radar. Barring the West Indies, where he averaged 22, he had an average of over 45 in all the countries that he played in.
Azhar Ali.
Yunus Khan.
Yunus Khan.
Oh, what an amazing player he was. Oh,
he has the most test hundreds for Pakistan, most runs for Pakistan. You could say that probably Mohammad Yusuf's peak was better than Yunus, but Yunus was a far more consistent batsman than what Mohammad Yusuf was. His peak was obviously better.
Yeah, but again, let me tell you this stat in particular. First innings, 53, sorry. First match innings, if I may say, 53. Second match innings, 56. Third match innings, 46.8. Fourth, while chasing, 50. With 600s. The most. Even Graham Smith didn't have that.
I tell you what, I never missed a Yunus Khan innings. When he was batting, I wanted to watch every ball. It was beautiful to watch. Mohammad Yusuf, the same. And probably the one that got me the most by far, because he was chubby and lazy like me, was Imam Al-Haq. I loved the way he played. He walked out there like he dragged. His bat was on the ground. His bat was on the ground. It was dragged. He never picked it up. And he would look, I don't really want to be here, guys, but I'll have to be here. All right. And then he would play such Did you love watching Inzamam al-Haq bat? Gil, did you like watching him bat?
Brilliant.
So I've not watched him bat a lot because I started watching in 2003-4 and he retired in 2007. But
Haven't
even
you heard
then,
of YouTube? Haven't you heard of YouTube watching replays? What is this?
yeah, I watch enough live cricket for me to have no time to go back and watch on
Reminisce
YouTube
a
as
bit.
well.
Go and look at them, would you?
92 onwards, I started watching Inzi bat, and
So what I'm saying is that I'd watched him bat for 3 to 4 years, and I still remember him still tormenting the Indian bowlers. In ODI series, there was this ODI series in 2004 in Pakistan where in the very first match he scored 100 odd, and
I think he scored
butchered.
200s in that series, 200s in that 5-match series.
No, it was one in the fifth one he couldn't.
Yeah. 120.
No, he did. Karachi was 123. Then there was another big innings, and he would actually butcher Murli Karthik. He would just come down the track and hit him all over the place. And there was my very early memories of Rohit Sharma were reminding me of Inzamam ul-Haq, because just like Inzamam ul-Haq, Rohit Sharma didn't used to move his feet a lot. He just had that extra odd innings to get in position and play those drives and those cuts. So,
I love batsmen like that. I love your Arjuna Ranatungas, your Inzamam al-Haqs, a lazier Rohit Sharma version.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love those.
Probably because you are like that as well, maybe.
Well, that may be the case, but I think that's true talent, because if you're superiorly fit, of course, you're meant to do everything right. That's boring. I want someone to, like even a Doug Walters who would smoke and drink and go out and bat really well. I love that. There's a naturalness to it. Does that make sense? I don't know whether you agree, but I love that.
So, of course, this is pure talent, but I personally have always liked players like, I'd say, Rahul Dravid, Virat Kohli, because they've not been as talented as their peers or their contemporaries. They've had to work a lot more harder on perfecting their game and adding those gears. So I like them slightly more, but yeah, I'm not saying that when these batsmen are on song that it's not great to watch. Watching Inzamam ul-Haq bat when he was not doing it against India and he was on song, it was a great sight. It was a great sight because he would make batting look ridiculously easy, which it isn't. You would feel that it's not something which is very difficult. You could stand in front of the stumps and then just hit through the line. But try doing that. A lot of us would fail even in getting line with the first line of the ball. Forget the movement. So,
he was so lazy.
Gil and Norman, imagine, for people who shun all this powerlifting, this exercising, Inzamam was our last hope. Yes, if he could do it, we could also do it. Just get the bat behind the line of the ball, show exceptional talent, play it late, shun exercise, eat well, and that's it. Your cricketing career is done.
My favorite Inzamam story is the one of 2003 World Cup, where he said that he lost some 10-15 kgs, but he couldn't score runs, and he went back to his old diet and everything, and the runs came back.
Absolutely.
He was mentally happy. I was in Amritsar 3 or 4 years ago. I was sitting out at breakfast, and there was Inzamam ul-Haq, his manager, and a few other people that I knew, and Harbhajan Singh. And I said, and I was all excited because Inzamam ul-Haq is a great person. So I'm talking to him. I'm going, you know what? You, me, and Arjuna have got something in common. He got really upset and said, "Don't you even include Arjuna with me? I wasn't as fat as him." I said, well, you were pretty. I said, I said, you were pretty slow between the wickets. Come on, you weren't exactly. He got very, very upset in a semi-gesturing way. It was really funny because he said, "Don't include me with him," and it was just hilarious to have a conversation with a man like that about something. I said, and I was denying it. I was like,
even Aravinda. If you have to equate Inzamam, it has to be Aravinda more. Aravinda was also not a very
he was quite portly too.
A six-packed guy, but he used to eat in the middle of a provincial game. He would stand at slip. He would be chomping on his fish buns.
So would I. They're lovely.
After the match, he would gorge on cakes and beer.
Root's already scored a single, by the way.
Yeah, 50. No?
Huh?
No, 50. He's on 49. Sorry.
You know what? I've just seen someone in the crowd I've just seen some of the crowd. I think it was David Graveney.
Oh,
Who do you think? Who do you think might be India's best bowler today?
I still think Siraj.
I have a slightly different pick. I'd say it's Ravindra Jadeja's day with the ball, because there's slight variable bounce. There's a little bit of grip, and if Moeen Ali can extract turn, then so can Ravindra Jadeja. And with the number of right-handers that are there in the English batting lineup to follow, you'd hope that he does well.
yeah, that'll be good. That'll be good.
I'm just watching Shami bowl now. They've got to bowl fuller. They have to bowl fuller.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people are saying that Shami bowled belly yesterday. Perhaps he did to stop the flow of runs, but I really didn't like the lines he bowled. I thought he was on the shorter side. He should have gotten Root to drive a little bit. See, I just feel I don't think that you can get out Joe Root while he's playing on the back foot. I don't think that will happen.
Sid, now you're going to. Sid just mentioned to me he's got to go, so you can lunch and work Beckons. So thanks for coming along, Sid. And I've got
Thanks, Norman.
Same for Still. You both can go, guys. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Norman.
Quick prediction.
India hopefully getting a 50-run lead, 50 to 75-run lead, hopefully.
57 runs. What about you, Gil?
Yeah, I'd hope that India, bowl out England under 300. That would be a good thing.
Yep.
All right, I'm saying 250. So there we go. All right, guys, I'll send you the links for after the match tomorrow. Thanks for your time, guys.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Ciao.
Bye, Gil. Bye.
Ciao. I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm sorry for those people who haven't been able to answer questions. Today's been a talk fest. Some days it'll be just all your questions being answered. Some days it's not. You have to understand we can't always answer questions and always talk to people. It's got to be with David Graveney and these guys, we've got a fair bit to talk to. So I'll get to your question shortly if you're still around. But the reality, England will lose 2 wickets in the first session. Quick legends, I hope so. I think that I still predict 250 for England's overall total, but it comes down to Root getting out. That's the issue that we'll have to wait and see. I can't see them getting 364. I really can't. But it's going to be a matter of Siraj and the like to bowl well. I think Gil mentioned earlier about Jadeja's bowling. Let's see how we go. Osami's coming to bowling. See, Bairstow's a good bat. I've got a lot of time for Bairstow. I think that he's, after 75, 76 test matches, he's got a lot of experience there and can't be sneezed at by any means. So England are now 3 for 120 with Root and Rory Burns, but both 49. Well, Root's not out. 49. Burns was out for 49. Sibley 11 and Bairstow was 6. Siraj got with 2 wickets as well as Shami having 1. So we'll just wait and see how this all pans out. 3 for 120. It's a long way from 346 or 364. A long way from there. Long way. On this day, 1990, a 17-year-old Sachin Tendulkar stroked his maiden international century, 119 not out, to save a test against England. That's 31 years ago. 31 years ago. A long time ago. Siraj is opening up. So Aryan Nandan says Root has scored another century. Well, he's very likely to do that, to be honest with you. Very, very likely to do this. It's a bit concerning in a way. Mohammad Siraj, to me, has got a spark about him. There's a certain spark about Siraj's bowling. As he was in Australia, especially his 5 wickets in together. And he can't afford to stray on the leg stump of Root because Root will pick him off every single time. So that's one thing that he needs to not do. Sibley's shot yesterday was awful. They're replaying Sibley's dismissal. And the ball that got, oh my God. I mean, it was a mess the way he got out. After having not played for 5 years, he's now 24. So 19 was the last time Hamid played. David Graveney was talking about. He came through David Graveney's system. Again, Root's playing very, very late. Very late. Kohli needs to get in the nets and play a lot later. And so does Rahane. They need to watch Root's batting technique. Not that not that Colley's not a great batsman, he is, but in English conditions, Root's the sublime expert of his own conditions, and he needs to play late. So did Cook, for that matter, as well. Even Bairstow's letting the ball come under the helmet and holding their line when they bat. A lot of leg stump being bowled. Siraj bowling a little leg stump to Root, which is his bread and butter. Why does Root not get out in India? Because he plays late. I truly believe that he plays late. I think isn't that an advantage on Indian wickets as well, playing late? I would have thought so. We're going to watch a bit together, guys, if you like. I'll go through some commentary, showing the crowd. There's quite an enormous crowd. It's almost virtually full. A lot of Indians, expats are there as well, which is great. Now, Root has moved out of the way. You just can't. Root's moved away from the crease while Siraj is in his last strides. That's very annoying because Siraj has expended all that energy running for him not to be able to. That's not good. I can see Matthew Hoggard in the court boxes. They often show the court boxes when they like. So Joe Root, we're talking earlier with Gill, Gogarat Gill, and Siraj. Oh, is that LBW? There's a lot of Siraj is very reactionary, and Root's having a bit of a giggle. Siraj is wonderful to see. He's got a lot of character about him, hasn't he? He's a fantastic player. So they're not appealing. It wasn't that, but Siraj acted like it was plum. It's quite hilarious. Quite a character. Siraj, there's a lot of cut off the wicket there from Siraj, mainly coming into the play. If he holds his line, it'll defeat the batsman more often than not. That was way outside of time. Siraj coming into bowl again. Root drives handsomely through the covers, and they're going down the slope, and it goes for 4. Only just to push it out. Jadeja was feeling that Jadeja had, and that's Root's 50. Root's got a 50. Centre in the previous match, 50 odd here. He really is. That's 50 first test 50 for Joe Root with his 2100s. He is such a key to this England batting lineup. My God, if he got out cheaply, we'd be looking down the barrel of 2 losses by now, I'd say. Have I visited Delhi? Absolutely. Quite a few times. Now, Root is gone. What? No. That's about the LBW. No, he's not. Where am I from? I'm from Sydney, Australia. Coogee Beach, Sydney, Australia. And you can see I've got Taj Mahal behind me, and I've got a Sri Lanka book above it. But no, I've been to in India. I've been to Bangalore, Chennai, Jaipur, Mumbai, Delhi, Amritsar, Kolkata. Large chunks of India I've been to on a number of occasions, very happily. So Joe Root's Test career: 107 matches, 196 innings, 8,940 runs, a batting average of 49.39, 51 50s, which could turn with 22 centuries, but it's 21 at the moment. He's best of 254. Shami to bowl to Bairstow, and Bairstow looks there. I'd love to see Shami. I'd love to see Shami get more wickets. He deserves it. He's been a very good bowler. He hasn't had all the luck that he deserves, and quite frankly, he probably deserves to get more in terms of wickets. Absolutely visited the Golden Temple. I was there for Vaisakhi. I was there for the April 14th or 17th day, whatever it is. It was the only non-Indian in the actual Golden Temple on the day. Some great videos and photos. In fact, look at my YouTube channel. You'll see my videos of my time there. I had a great time. Very blessed. Also stayed in the hotel there at Amritsar, not far from the airport, and met up with Inzamam al-Haq on the day. So Shami once again to Bairstow. straying the leg stump quite a bit, and it's cabin fodder for, and the ball's going easily to the boundary there. Another 4. And Near's bowling straying somewhat more so outside the leg stump and a bit on that side stump at the moment. Definitely straight on the leg side. Bairstow's a good bat. So Shami is there. Bairstow's playing forward, but he's playing late while forward. Again, the key. So we'll see the gentleman is here.
Right, he was a dasher. He always wanted to get in early. 2 minutes 6, and he couldn't.
Just taking reviews.
I need to go in early.
Bairstow certainly is. Oh, there's an edge. Oh, very streaky shot from Bairstow through what a vacant third, fourth slip position. Went for 4. Would it have carried? Maybe just. Looking at Shami bowling quite full, which is good. Ball, no, it would have carried probably to a third slip. Yeah. Frustrations are certainly there on the Indian players. That I don't want to have that continue too long. Bairstow's changing his bat. It's a ton. I'm not sure whether it's from this in English, but looking at a batting day, Norman, keep watching. I will. Shastra, I will keep watching. Keep watching, keep talking. I will do that. You want me to keep commentary as well, but so at the moment the weather looks it certainly is relatively bright. It certainly is a good batting day. As the ball gets older, there'll be less and less swing, and that will suit the batsman. If Root and Bairstow can stay in, now there's a fair bit of cloud cover. It's not totally blue sky. There's patches of blue, but the sky's mainly decked in clouds, although high clouds, not dark clouds. But yeah, it's still enough there for a bit of swing. But Bairstow, very experienced batter. Great. He really, to me, should be a regular on the side. I don't think Ollie Pope's ready yet at all. And Lawrence, totally not the player to have in the side. Joe Root is batting magnificently. He's on 53. Most of the 4s that you see him hitting are from very loose deliveries, either fairly short or fairly wide. He's just steering them around for easy runs. Steering a lot of balls through the vacant third man position is Root. And that's and he drives very well as well. But Root's batting is all around the ground. But he gets his cheap runs through the slips along the ground. Good batsman. What if England get 300? Well, if England get 300, we'll just even up the match. It'll make it more and more of an even match. So that's a good point about Naresh Sharma was talking about Bairstow and the Sunrisers Hyderabad playing 11. He should. And I think Warner's days are numbered there with Williamson and Bairstow both in that side. Do they really need to have Warner's antics? I don't think they do. Paying him a lot of money. Okay. Sunrisers Hyderabad won an IPL final with Warner at the helm back in, was it 4 or 5 years ago, whenever it was. Okay, I grant that, but they shouldn't hang on to him because of that reason at all. There we are. Another good shot by Root through mid-wicket along the ground off Siraj. Bumrah's the one that needs to really step up here today, as well as Siraj, to take some wickets, because that's one thing they're certainly failing about at the moment. If you're joining us for the first time, please make sure you subscribe, as I'm hoping to bring you as much as I can. I'm trying to ask, why haven't you shaved, Norman? Are you sick? I really hope you're well. I am well. I'm just not shaving because I'm lazy. I normally go to a barber once a week. That's how lazy I've become. And because we've got a severe case of COVID, we've got almost 400 cases in a day. All the barbershops are closed, and I can't go out and get shaved. And I'm too lazy to go and do it. Well, I may do it, but do you like me? Tell me whether you like me having the beard, because I'm not sick at all. Not sick at all. What target can India give away? What target can India give anyway?
India would not want to have England go past their score of 364. That's for sure. If they get 100 leaders, magnificent. But if it gets smaller and smaller, just evens the match up. In England are all out for 250, then you will see the match stay in the favour of India. But if England creep closer and closer to 364, the more even it becomes. If they happen to go ahead, it will become a slightly skew with situation. But I can't see them. I'm still maintaining 250. All we need to see is the wicket of definitely the wicket of Siraj, not Siraj, the wicket of Root, and then if we get his wicket, then we will see a situation where things might change dramatically. But while Root's there and he's batting 53, 56 now, it's not looking too good for India. But he's the key. Root is the key. You've got to get him out. And they should be spending some time bowling to his outside off stump length. Showing a lot of crowd portraits of people when they're bacon and egg ties and shirts. Quite incredible. And you're checking the ball whether it fits through the wicket of Root. We certainly want it. That's right. What had happened to Alex Hales? Alex Hales is not about form, it's about his discretions, his discipline. He's into drugs and all sorts of things apparently, and they've pretty much banned him from playing, which is sad because he's a great player. But was the drugs the reason why he played well? That's the other question. Sanghara is president of MCC, correct? He certainly is. He's living in England. So is Michael Holding. I mean, Ganguly spends his summer there, and I'm sure Kohli and Tendulkar like spend a lot of time too there. I know that they've often got residences there in that country. Sanghara's, being president of MCC would be well taken care of. Thank you so much for replying to me, Norman. I became your fan since last series. So between Aussie versus India, you gave us some amazing updates. I'm really happy that you are well. Thank you. Who is the next presidency? I heard some woman. I think an ex-women player. I don't know when that's going to happen, but how frequent is it? Every 2 or 3 years? I don't know. But the fact that Sanghara was given the presidency, I think he's got an extra year because of COVID. They've given him because he didn't have much involvement through that year. Route 56 bare. Route 56 best, so on 15. The score is 3 for 136. They're trailing by some 228 after some 49 overs. Shami and Siraj have been the two bowlers to start the day. It won't be long before we see Bumrah into the attack, and probably Ishant will come on as well. But they need to take an early wicket. Siraj did it yesterday after lunch. I think it was after lunch. Now, I think Shami's bowling a little bit too short. He needs to bowl a lot fuller and tempt the batsman outside of stump. In October 2021, they will change. I mean the actual presidency. I thought there was an extra year given to Sanghara. I thought there was an extra year given to him. Hey, Norman, I just hope we get Root out today in the first session. So do I. According to you, what to change about the DRS is not a bad rule. I would actually argue giving a third, not just 2 but 3. I think that's worthy of exploring it. What are your thoughts of Virat's batting in the series? Why is he strong according to you? Well, he's a great batsman with incredible average. We were talking about this earlier. He's still one of the best, if not the best batsman in the world. The reality is that he is going through a slight form slump. But he did get 40 on the first innings, and he was looking scratchy, but he was improving. All he has to do is have this one moment where he clicks over and starts getting into form, which could be in the next innings or the next test. Then we'll see a prolific number of test runs from Kohli. So don't discount that he's still up there. And his captaincy, 59% wins for his country. 63 now tests that he's captain. Astounding record. Not to be sneezed at. A lot of edges coming from the Bairstow bat. It's almost a valued shot, just nicking it or gliding it through the slips. That's gone through about a vacant extra gully. And just rolls down the hill. with great pace. So 3 for 140. Bairstow 19 not out, Root 56. They still trail by 224, which is quite a lot of runs, over 49.3. And Bairstow's starting to look in form. He drove beautifully off Sharmy back down the wicket now, but Bairstow's a very good batsman. Not to be, he's quite superior. These two are the ones that they've got to get out. Nice straight drive there from Bairstow. Beautifully played. Do I think Vera's too cautious? A little bit, but he's got to learn to let the ball go, then it cautious will go. What are your thoughts about more than 50% touching stuff? Yeah, I don't like that. Once it hits the stumps with 50% and 20% is out, I thought, because when you hit the side of the stump still goes. I disagree with that, but they had to make that decision. I guess it's for everyone, so I have to live with it. He's superior in ODIs, but he's also a pretty good test batsman. Look at his batting record. He's played 75, 76 tests for England. It's no slouch. Who was your favourite player in order? Virat, Steve, Kane, and Joe? Virat's my favourite, but at the moment, Joe and Kane are probably slightly ahead with Steve and Virat next on current form. But overall form, Virat. So the stupid security guy that he himself needs to get out of the way. Get out of the way. You're complaining about a security guard that's in the yellow outfit themselves. He continues to walk down the stairs. His security guard's not hearing, but his top, he doesn't realise it's his own top that he doesn't know. Incredible. Stuffing around because someone's wearing a yellow jacket and they don't understand. It's incredibly embarrassing what they're doing. It's hilarious. This person still doesn't quite get it, but the yellow jacket they're wearing is bothering the batsman, and they're still standing like a goose. Someone should go up there properly and sort that out. Anyway, this could be the downfall of Bairstow. Show me, let's go up there. Bairstow, let's go. So Sharmy finishes his over 1 for 39 as his figures. England are now 3 for 144 with Bairstow on 23, Root on 56. Sharmy's bowled 11 overs, Bumrah 9, Sharmy 11, Siraj 15, Jadeja 4 at this stage. Pretty well spread throughout the bowlers. Bumrah bowling the least of the faster bowlers at 9. Bumrah should be on pretty soon, I would imagine. And Root continues to just dab the ball through a vacant set of slips down to what there is now a Feldman at third man. So he's just manoeuvring the strike with ease. I'm saying from my heart, I believe very strongly in this. I'm a non-judgmental, not biased. People that know me will know who will win. At this stage, it's still India, but it's going to slowly creep away to a closer match as England will keep batting. Bolt upright at the crease, is struck high on the pad. Okay. why other batsmen don't practice spin like Root. I don't know. They should. Yes, I did. Root is the headache. Yes, that means he's a really good player. I'll go about 20 minutes, guys, and I'll drop off because we'll let you guys watch the match if you want. Okay. Well, we'll go off very shortly. I'll take my time off, guys. Siraj again. Bairstow driving beautifully. Bairstow's starting to look like he's in a bit of form there. He loves these bowling conditions for sure. Scores 3 for 149. They're going along quite nicely now, Bairstow and Root. Yeah, the swing and movement starting to become less and less. The conditions are a lot clearer, becoming more of a batting paradise now. Great stands, the new stands next to the JP Morgan Media Centre. I like the look of them. Bairstow's playing at will at the moment. Bairstow's 28, Root is 57. Score is 3 for 150. And things are going along nicely for England this morning. The wicket looks in good nick. The outfield looks in good nick. The weather being a lot clearer and sunnier means less movement. Indian bowlers, are they going to miss having Ashwin? It's going to be interesting. Root will grow into a tree. It's almost funny. Samanth Shastri is saying that root, as in root in the ground, will grow into a tree if he continues to stay. Yes, here. What is news on Ashes 20? It will go as soon as planned, yeah? There's no issue with it being played. It's a matter of how many people will be able to go in as fans. The bio bubbles will occur, whether the whole family, whole English family is allowed to travel is the issue. But I'm sure they're going to relax that. Hopefully things are better by that stage, but it'll be interesting. Yeah, Root certainly does look very solid indeed. Yeah, England have played very well. I mean, it's saying England have planned really well with that pitch. What do you mean they've decided what type of pitch they get? They wouldn't have had any decisions there. Get out. I wanted to get out to. They're going off. I'm watching. No, they're not going off. Showing Bairstow pulling and hooking. Awfully short. They're trying to tempt Bairstow to pull and upwardly and be caught. It seems like a bit of a plan being struck. They've got Rahul deep at mid-wicket, deep square leg, and they're bowling a little bit shorter to Bairstow and tempting him to hook. Very unusual tactics so early on in a man's innings to already be trying to get him out that way, but they got him out that way in the first test, so perhaps they think this is going to continue. Interesting. So Sen Radio has blocked its audio commentator feed in India. an England Test series. Why is that? So the partnership so far between the two is 43 off 60 balls. Quite commendable. 51.2 overs bowled. England still trailed by 213 with a score of 3 for 151. Root facing Shami. So there's the pavilion end and the nursery end. Nursery end is where the JP Morgan Media Centre is, and the nursery ground is behind it, the nursery end, as opposed to the pavilion end, which is where the members' pavilion is. Beautiful ground. Shami's just not quite there with his length. Bowling a lot short and a lot at the stumps, not really penetrating. So if you would have seen the James Anderson media conference, he talked a lot about what he thinks of these fellow players and the conditions that he's under and the camaraderie they have. Do you think that Ash has lost his prestige since Shea has lost to an end ago? No. Wayne loves to bowl from pavilion end and not the nursery end. The slope goes. No, it's interesting. The slope from the pavilion end goes more into the batsman. From the nursery end, it goes away. So, not sure. But if he likes a certain end, James Anderson has got 7 5-wicket hauls at Lords, 7 times on the honour board. Pretty hard to knock what he wants to do on that ground. He's had amazing success here. Waited very late and cut the ball to a regulation third man now. Rich moved on to 58, BSO 29, 3 for 152. After 52 overs, they're trailed by 212. It's whittling away. Why not Umesh? Very, very true. Superstition. It might be superstition. Probably more just he bowls well for him. Umesh Yadav, you'd have to think will be considered down the track, no doubt. Anik stenographer, hello, hi there. Please don't have the same thing twice. I mean, typing was there. Runs are flowing, they certainly are. Or else he will block you. That's true. Please don't. I can read it once. Can you add me in tomorrow's live preview show, Surrender B? I don't know who you are, so you have to. If you want to be a part of it, I have to be able to talk with you and discuss whether you're able to be the person. You've got my @NormKoch as my Twitter and my Instagram handle. Email me there or send a message there with your email, and I'll talk to you, and we'll see whether I can fit you in. Can Sky be in the third test? He can be, but I think there'll be Vihari. I will go in front of him, to be honest with you. Shastri's there, saying they're rather. I'm sure he's a little bit frustrated at the moment. Kylie's looking a little bit circumspect. It looks a bit like he's not that happy with the proceedings. That was a good ball from Siraj. All right, guys. We're 35 minutes into play. Robert's the world best batsman. He certainly can be. He just needs to finish off a few of his innings and start to really convert great starts. 3 for 153. England are trailing by 211 runs. Partnership is now 45. Bairstow's got the strike into the 53rd over of the match. England are doing quite okay at the moment. Bairstow and Root are the key, with Butler, Ali to follow with Curran. Although they're okay, these two are the more important two. Siraj bowling a short ball, trying to tempt Bairstow. I obviously think Bairstow's vulnerable to a short ball. Kale's 200 didn't score 200, did he? Darius, don't review Siraj, just a joke, but then you should think about taking Darius rightly, yeah? Yeah. Siraj seems to be the most threatening of bowlers so far, I have to say. Michael Curran has sent me a photo. What's this of? Thanks, Michael. I think it's... Okay. Thanks, Michael Curran, if you're actually watching. Thank you. What am I doing, Norman? That's a good question. I was actually just checking some stats. My apologies, guys. I got carried away with some stats. So shall I join? Right, Jessica Balraj. If you want to join, you're going to have to go to my Instagram handle there and send me a message. Butler is not in form. That's true. Bairstow's averages in the last 5 home test matches. Didn't play. He's got some low scores, but he's still looking good today. Ashwin is missing, absolutely. What am I doing, Norman? I'm here. Sorry, I was got really carried away. Very frustrating partnership, this, because they're looking particularly good, guys. That's the problem. All right, guys. We're going to, next 5-10 minutes, I'm going to go, okay? I wonder, Michael Curran, are you watching? Do you send me that message on the basis of you watching the show? I'm wondering. So ask me questions, guys, while watching. Your guests were so good, I would have only lowered level. Great show. Well done. Thank you, Richard. It's not over yet. I'm still on. Richard, you can come on now for a little while if you want to, Richard. I won't be here for very long. Root's into his 60s already. He scored centuries and, geez, he's certainly as good, isn't he? So the batting partnership of 50 between these two, between Bairstow and Root. Yes, he certainly can. Doing these programs, that's what I'm spending my time doing. What's your take on Siraj celebration? I love it. Doing a lot of these shows, as I said. Sangakkara averaged 67 tests as specialist. He was brilliant. This is a batting pitch. It's becoming that. Well, while the sun's out, it's a batting pitch. Ooh, Bumrah's on. This could change things right up. Let's just see how Bumrah goes. his first ball came in and then just nipped away a little bit. Very hard for Bairstow to get behind that. And kept low, actually. Boomer's really the key. Really the key is Boomer. Nick Knight is on. So Siraj is the first. It was a very close decision there early on for LBW. As the ball starts seaming off the pitch as well as when the clouds come, does it then become swollen too? Somewhat. It's just the air thickens. Jadeja, put Jadeja on. I should put him on. Do you think Shraj should tone up down his? No, I don't think so. Do you think you missed a trick with Virat? Yes, yep, I think so. Do you think Virat must? I do agree after that. Ashwin can play T20 shots. Well, Ashwin's not a bad batsman, traditional batsman. He's he could open the innings. He's capable. So they're missing a trick there, certainly, with him. All right. Now, someone mentioned, who was it? Sumanth Shastri mentioned Jadeja. He's just come on. We'll watch a couple of overs and then I'll have a break, guys. All right. Not much happening there. Root will love the spin. Root loves the spin, as we know. All right, guys. We need to consider that we're going to come back. So there's my Norm Koch is my Instagram, my Twitter handle. I have a LinkedIn page as well. My Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnak, as you can see, is the YouTube channel. Subscribe. And then you'll actually have the ability to have notifications of any future updates. Spread the word. WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, even your email services. The Shadows comes in the bowl. Most importantly is to note that there'll be a session post-game at 6 p.m. if that's what time the scheduled play finishes. It's been as late as 6:30 or 7 p.m., which will be 10:30, 11 o'clock Indian time and well into the morning for me. Shubman Gill is injured for the whole series. He's back home. He did open the batting. He is an opening bowler by profession. We can see there some of the batters there. Is that Mayan Agarwal? I'm not sure. It looked a bit like that was Agarwal, to be honest. Or Eshawar, I'm not sure who that was. Yeah, I think I need a break, guys. I'm going to wake up later. We'll talk later. I'll be there. All right, guys, I'll be watching more of the game. So again, view, like, and share the post. Subscribe. Share the whole thing around. Make sure everybody gets a chance to enjoy this and join with me, and also subscribe to the channel. So England are 3 for 159 as we go. Coming up to 44 minutes of the match. They trail by 205 now, a lot less. 55 overs have gone. So 3 for 159. So be interesting to see whether Jadeja has much success. There's someone brought Ishan Sharma on now. Is that Ishan Sharma bowling now? I'm not sure. Hi. Good night, sir. Hi there, on Prakash Das. I hope you've actually subscribed. I'll be back later today. Bumrah is pretty much the key, I'd say. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later, okay? All the best. Take care. I'll see you after the games play at 3 o'clock.